टैक्स में एंड अकाउंटिंग एडवाइजरी में क्या क्या नए नए अपॉर्चुनिटीज आ रही है?
अगर आपको इंटरनेशनल मार्केट्स में काम करना है तो आपको ACCA करना चाहिए. मेरे हिसाब से that's a big positive.
You have to choose an organization with respects people. Organizational culture होना चाहिए भाई, आदमी को वो ग्रूम करते हैं और नौकर की तरह ट्रीट नहीं करते.
कोई CA को एक बार क्लियर करते हैं तो डू यू थिंक कि MBA इज अ मस्ट?
So वो कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है मुझे, वो मिथ है CA वर्सेस MBA. बॉम्बे में जो जैसे मलाड और बोरीवली में ड्रेस करता है, जो कप परेड में ड्रेस करता है, अलग है. वो माहौल का फर्क है.
मेरे एक क्लाइंट थे, he was one of the richest men in the world. उन्होंने मेरे को बताया कि never have a MBA finance as your CFO. Okay? Because उस जगह प्रॉब्लम क्या था कि जो MBA finance समझता था बिजनेस, लेकिन उसको नंबर नहीं समझ आते थे.
आपके लाइफ में ऐसे कुछ फेलियर्स जैसे हुए थे इन द स्टार्ट ऑफ योर?
I came first, then I went for my final exam. I failed my first attempt. Both groups. 3 months before my exam, I lost my mother. When I went for the exam, I could not handle the exam. But obviously, you can't go and tell the world that you had a personal problem.
तो बिग फोर में प्रमोशंस देन जो हो रहे हैं, लाइक इवन अप टू द पार्टनर लेवल, हाउ डज द कॉम्पेंसेशन all of that works?
You can go as high as you want to go. I think as is publicly reported that actually most partners, effectively the number of people who make $1.5 crore plus is crazy, and it's easy. But ultimately the question is, will you get to partnership or not?
KPMG is the best firm. I think if I had to put my son anywhere other than transaction, it would be KPMG if he chose to.
Can you elaborate more on that? Why KPMG so much, and why do you think it's the best big four?
It is the best big four because
वीडियो देखने से पहले मेरी एक रिक्वेस्ट है आप सबसे. मैं YouTube एनालिटिक्स देख रहा था एंड वहाँ पर देखा कि 82.6% ऑफ माय ऑडियंस हु इज वाचिंग दिस कंटेंट हैज नॉट सब्सक्राइब टू द चैनल. अगर मैंने आपको थोड़ी सी वैल्यू प्रोवाइड की होगी एंड आपको अगर कंटेंट बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है, आई रिक्वेस्ट ऑल ऑफ यू टू प्लीज हिट द सब्सक्राइब बटन सो दैट वी कैन ब्रिंग यू द बेस्ट क्वालिटी ऑफ गेस्ट एंड गिव यू द मैक्सिमम वैल्यू पॉसिबल. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर सब्सक्राइबिंग टू आवर चैनल एंड एंजॉय दिस एंटायर एपिसोड ऑफ कॉन्वर्सेशन विद कुशल. एकदम क्विकली, लाइक वी कैन स्टार्ट ऑफ विद योर जर्नीज एंड वील डिवाइड दिस पॉडकास्ट इनटू 2 parts. One is like for the career-oriented folks for who want to get into careers in taxation, accounting, auditing, account and advisory. And the second part on the entrepreneurial angle, since both of you have quit KPMG and then you started your own journey. So Jamil sir, we'll start off with you. आपकी journey के बारे में briefly बताओगे and then Girish sir will come to you.
Sure. So I started, born and brought up in Bombay, did my commerce, so I do graduation. Along the way, foundation course kind of came, and उस time पे chartered accountancy came to mind. My father is an accountant, so उस हिसाब से chartered accountancy was natural, and I wanted to use my BCom constructively. So I started doing my foundation course, cleared my foundation, and then graduated. Started with KPMG very very early on, and then by the grace of God, finished my chartered accountancy, and then of course continued with KPMG along the way, and I'll talk about it later. I also got an interest in doing my US CPA, so did that as well, and then got into the working life with KPMG.
And then KPMG के बाद, like, when did you decide you want to quit and start something of your own?
Oh, that's a long story. So my stint with KPMG was 27 years. When I started this, it was a very small early group, and I got through my career, I got to do many things. I got to do classic auditing bank. So मैं पहले ANZ Generalist Standard Chartered Bank जैसे बैंक किया. उसके बाद I got into US listing, so started working with people like ICICI, Wipro, all of the company that wanted to raise capital in America. Then I moved into consulting and set up a consulting business for KPMG, did a global role with KPMG, and then finally was a part of the leadership for India, where our paths, Girish and my paths, kind of crossed as well. So 27 saal, 27 years, and then at some stage you ask yourself the question, what next? How long can you do the same thing and enjoy with passion doing it? And I got to the answer that the time was right for me to do something different, and that's how entrepreneurship happened.
God, lovely. Girish sir, what's your journey been like?
मेरा केस भी इसके सिमिलर ही है. खाली जो बैकग्राउंड था, जो मेरे नेबर थे वो CA थे. मेरे फैमिली में कोई CA नहीं है. मेरा फादर के कालवा देवी में दुकान थी, कपड़े का काम था. सो आई वॉज द फर्स्ट CA इन माई फैमिली एक्चुअली. पर जो मेरे सामने वाला नेबर था बहुत अच्छा करता था, उसकी ऑफिसेस थी, अपनी फैक्ट्री लगाई थी, तो मुझे लगा भाई CA करके आदमी बहुत अच्छा कमा सकता है. आई गॉट इनटू CA. और जब भी मैंने CA चालू किया, सिमिलरली हमारे केस में भी वो एंट्रेंस फाउंडेशन थे, फिर आर्टिकल्स चालू होते थे, तो मैंने ऑडिट में CA चालू किया. AF फर्गसन फर्म हुई करती थी तभी, तो ऑडिट में फर्म में CA चालू करके बहुत लोग बोलते हैं ऑडिट नहीं करना चाहिए, एडवाइजरी करना चाहिए, और एक्चुअली जो आज मैं हूँ वो ऑडिट के आर्टिकलशिप के लिए ही हूँ। ऑडिट के आर्टिकलशिप में हम लोग जाते थे यूनिलीवर के पास, वो हमें एकदम ही बेकार ट्रीट करते थे। आपको ये वाउचर चाहिए, आप जाके वहाँ देखो। तो हम लोग फिगर ही आउट करते थे, कुछ ट्रीटमेंट बराबर नहीं थी, कुछ समझ में नहीं आता था। बट जैसे जैसे हमको सीखने को मिलता था ह्यूमन इंटरेक्शन स्किल्स, कैसे लोग से काम निकालना, कैसे डेटा निकालना, एंड देन आई यूज्ड टू ऑडिट टाटा ग्रुप कंपनीज ऑल्सो, टाटा पावर, टाटा मोटर्स, टाटा स्टील, महिंद्रा एंड महिंद्रा। तो एक एग्रेसिव एमएनसीज थी, दूसरी कल्चर्ड इंडियन कंपनीज थी, तो बहुत सीखने को मिला। तो वो आर्टिकल्स पहले ऑडिट में थे, एंड जैसे लग चला रैंक्स भी आई, इन इंटर आई केम फर्स्ट, फाइनल आई केम फोर्थ, but I got married between my CA finals and till the results came.
You were only rank 1 in CA Inter.
Yeah.
Oh wow! And
Yeah,
4th
so-
in CA finals.
Yeah. So,
wow.
but I got married in between.
Ah.
So now I was getting married. Then audit used to, make us travel a lot, like Kamgaon, Yavatmal. I don't know whether you know the place, like Chindwara, HLL की सब जगह तभी फैक्ट्रीज हुआ करती थी, तो हम लोग ऑडिट के लिए जाते थे। तो फिर लगा भाई ऑडिट में बहुत ट्रैवल करना पड़ेगा, शादी के इमीडिएटली बाद वेरी डिफिकल्ट। So then I chose tax, which was zero travel. So then I joined Arthur Andersen for tax, and that's when my tax career started. So an absolute auditor, got into tax, then got into M&A, and I did 10 years of Arthur Andersen. Then Arthur Andersen collapsed Enron ka time, and part of Andersen merged into EY.
Correct.
Part all got dispersed, and then I came to KPMG with Jamil. I've been admiring him for 14 years now. I was with him for 14 years in KPMG. And we did a lot of things together, a lot of things jointly. We really extensively did a lot of things together. And then I left KPMG in 2018 at the peak of our career. When we both left, we both stood for CEO elections.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And if you would have continued, I think the next term, one of us would have been the CEO.
Okay.
Actually, we both were in the CEO election, and we both just backed off, and I don't know what happened. So like,
We were lucky.
yeah, we actually contested a CEO election together.
Okay.
So like we reached there, and at the peak of, at least I think, he also left at the peak of his career. I also left at the peak of my career.
Indeed.
When everything was going good for us. I think for both of us, I think, Jamil, if you see, like, we stayed in the best hotels together.
Absolutely.
Oberoi, Taj. Our passports are heavy with travels.
Exactly.
We traveled around the world together.
Correct.
International conferences. मतलब ऐसा हमारे पास comforts था. मेरे पास 3 secretaries थी. आपके पास भी ऐसे. Now we were just seeing, how we are calling people, but
Correct.
3-4 secretaries, and
Yeah.
wherever we went, placards used to be waiting for us.
Yeah. No,
From
absolutely.
that, we became men on the ground. At least I became the first employee of my firm. So at the peak of our career.
Indeed.
So you have to leave when the going is good,
Yeah.
and not when you're forced to exit.
Yeah.
इनकी calling अलग थी, मेरी calling अलग थी. But
Right.
बहुत strong calling थी.
Very, very inspiring. I think key takeaway which I'm taking from your message is that ऐसा necessary नहीं है कि आपको articleship या आपको first job tax में करना पड़ेगा if you want to make a career in tax.
Correct.
It's like
बिल्कुल
anything
नहीं.
can happen.
बिल्कुल ही.
Yeah.
कहाँ human behavior होता है वो करना चाहिए.
Yeah. In fact, just to add to what Girish said, I tell everybody that very similar to जो message उन्होंने दिया कि जितना wide variety audit में सीखने को मिलता है, because life में specialization तो करना ही है. Question is कौन से stage पे specialization करना है. And I think my guidance to everybody always has been that first build a broad enough foundation so that you get to see. That will also tell you कि आपका interest कहाँ है. आप एक जगह घुस जाओगे और आपको फिर 10 साल बाद पता चलेगा कि मेरा interest कोई और था. You actually lost 7-8 years in terms of getting to that, right? So I think the advice really is do an audit stint. Understand what you like. For example, many people, once they do that, we've had many people who work with us say that they audit banks, and they believe that then कि हमको banking में जाना है. Great outcome. People do that and हमको transactions करना है, diligences करना है, right? So audit is always, so totally agree with what Girish says.
बट इसमें कभी कभी ऐसा नहीं होता है, जैसे बहुत सारे जो जूनियर्स भी होते हैं, बहुत सारे यंग फ्रेशर्स होते हैं, दे फील दैट ऑडिट इज वेरी मोनोटोनस और वेरी मंडेन एंड रूटीन टास्क, एंड यूजुअली पीपल आर वेरी स्केप्टिकल और मे बी रिलक्टेंट टू डू ऑडिट बिकॉज लगता है कि वाउचिंग करना है, वेरिफिकेशन करना है, सेम काम बार बार करना है, तो लर्निंग कर्व इज नॉट वेरी स्टीप एज कम्पेयर टू लेट्स से टैक्सेशन और वैल्यूएशन और प्रोजेक्ट फाइनेंसिंग और एनी अदर करियर अपॉर्चुनिटी. तो उनके लिए आप क्या मैसेज देना चाहोगे?
मैं बताता हूँ, जैसे ऑडिट में आप कंपनीज एक्ट भी देख रहे हैं, अगर मैं कोई भी एरिया लूँ, सपोज आप इन्वेस्टमेंट्स लो, इन्वेस्टमेंट में आप कंपनीज एक्ट भी देख रहे हैं, आप अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स भी देख रहे हैं, आप देख रहे हैं कि ओवरसीज गाइडलाइंस कंप्लाई हो रहे हैं कि नहीं, सब एंगल से आप एक एरिया को देखते हैं. अगर आप एम्प्लॉयमेंट देख रहे हैं तो आप पीएफ भी देख रहे हैं, ग्रेचुइटी भी देख रहे हैं, प्रोविजन बराबर है कि देख रहे हैं कि नहीं. सो यू आर स्टडिंग ऑल लॉज. और वैल्यूएशन डजंट मेक यू स्टडी ऑल द लॉ. सो व्हेन यू आर एक्चुअली स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम स्क्रैच डूइंग ऑडिट, आप पूरा धंधा समझ रहे हैं. जैसे अगर मैं टाटा पावर में गिटाता था तो पूरा पावर बिजनेस समझ में आता था. भाई कैसे कोल आता है, कैसे पावर प्लांट लगता है, कैसे बिलिंग होती है, कैसे इलेक्ट्रिसिटी एक्ट चलती है, कैसे वो रिजर्व बनाने पड़ते हैं, वो सब लर्निंग, रियल लर्निंग ऑडिट में होती है. जमील, आई थिंक फॉर यू आल्सो लाइक एरिया बाय एरिया.
Totally agree.
और सीखने का चाह होना चाहिए. तो सीखने का चाह नहीं तो कुछ नहीं.
Totally agree. और ऐसा मतलब ये नहीं कि आप एक बार ऑडिट कर रहे हो तो आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते. Actually, the best, most of the leaders that we groomed at at our previous organization, whether वो transactions हैं, corporate finance है, valuation, वो सब ऑडिट से ही चालू हुए थे. Now, it doesn't mean that you cannot be an advisory and consulting lead and everybody has to be an auditor. But I think being an auditor does not mean that you cannot be a consulting kind of person in the future.
Yeah, makes sense. And now at KPMG, so you were the head of the tax department and you were the head of the accounting.
I actually did two businesses at different points in time. I used to head audit.
Okay.
I used to head accounting advisory, another part of the risk consulting business as well.
Okay, got it. So अभी lot of people who have let's say graduated और अभी बस उन्होंने CA क्लियर किया है या तो उन्होंने बस अभी उनको करियर शुरू करना है, दोनों जो फील्ड्स है, टैक्सेशन हो गया एंड देन अकाउंटिंग एडवाइजरी हो गया, कैन यू ब्रेक इट डाउन कि टैक्स में एंड अकाउंटिंग एडवाइजरी में क्या क्या नए नए अपॉर्चुनिटीज आ रही है CAs के लिए एंड इवन लाइक ऑल ग्रेजुएट्स के लिए, एंड हाउ कैन दे मेक अ करियर इन दीज डोमेन्स?
मुझे लगता है पहले क्या अच्छा लगता है वो जानना चाहिए. और बहुत टाइम तो हमें भी पता नहीं है क्या अच्छा लगता है. एंड द फर्स्ट जॉब इज नॉट नेसेसरी योर लास्ट जॉब. तो ऐसा नहीं है भाई आपने कुछ गलत भी चूज कर लिया तो उस पर हमेशा आपको रहना पड़ेगा. तो पहले तो इतना प्रेशर नहीं लेना चाहिए. आप CA बने हैं, यू बिकम अ CA, choose the right thing which you think is right at that point of time. What I think is important more than what you should choose is a great organization. So, जैसे when I cleared my CA, I joined Arthur Andersen. Arthur Andersen, I think, it was the best thing in my life. They invested in people. They taught us we are the best. हम लोग तभी हमारी तनख्वाह होती थी 10-12 हज़ार रुपए, पर हमारी बैग 10,000 रुपए की होती थी. वो सिखाते थे भाई कंसल्टेंट बन के अगर एक 2,000 रुपए की टाई पहनेंगे तो क्लाइंट को लगेगा भाई कोई बहुत ही अच्छे आदमी से बात कर रहे हैं और एडवाइस में फर्क पड़ेगा. तो दे taught us how consulting has to be done. They invested in us. They sent us to the best schools overseas. We had the best training overseas. We had the best moving around, all round grooming.
Yeah.
तो मुझे लगता है जो पहला जॉब होना चाहिए, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अच्छी होनी चाहिए. मेरी बेटी मीन्स योर एज, शी इज अ लॉयर एंड एन MBA. तो द ओनली क्राइटेरिया वी हैड फॉर हर टू चूज द जॉब वाज should she be in an organization which invests in people. She's an HDFC ergo, but really getting groomed to look at different dimensions of an organizational life. और उसमें अगर आपने ऑडिट चूज किया, टैक्स चूज किया, that you should do what you like. And it's possible that after doing it, you may feel ये मुझे पसंद नहीं है.
Yeah.
You can still change, no problem. और अच्छी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन होनी चाहिए. आई थिंक लोग बहुत ही कंफ्यूज होते हैं. मुझे तो बैंकिंग ही करना है, मुझे तो PE ही करना है.
Yeah.
You don't even know what it is till you start working.
But how to choose a right organization then? कैसे डिसाइड करें कि ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन सही है, गलत है? What are some characteristics?
See, I tell you, there are 2-3 dimensions to it. First is you have to choose an organization which respects people. So if you see the culture, the people first, grooming of people, बात चीज से पता चल जाता है. और आजकल तो बहुत ही स्कोर्स भी चलते हैं. अगर मैं अपने फर्म के बारे में भी देखूँ तो मुझे फीडबैक मिलता है. हाउ इज इट वर्किंग फॉर ट्रांजैक्शंस. बहुत लोग अपने ओपिनियंस देते हैं. तो बात करके, जांच करके, एकदम समझ के, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कल्चर होना चाहिए भाई. आदमी को वो ग्रूम करते हैं और नौकर की तरह ट्रीट नहीं करते. ग्रूम करते हैं, सिखाते हैं, आगे बढ़ाते हैं, प्रमोट करते हैं, उनको अच्छा जगह लेके जाते हैं, वो प्री रेक्विजिट है। वो एमएनसीज में भी है, वो इंडियन फर्म्स में भी है। बड़े बड़े नाम में कभी वो नहीं भी है, क्योंकि वहाँ बिहेवियर ठीक नहीं रहता है, टॉक्सिक फर्म्स होती है, कहाँ पॉलिटिक्स चलती है। और बहुत अच्छी अच्छी जगह है। 90% पीपल आर ग्रेट पीपल, 10% आर बैड एग्जाम्पल्स विच यू। सो जांच करके बराबर यू शुड चूज योर एम्प्लॉयर as much as the employer chooses the employer.
I want to actually, apply two dimensions here. I think one, first of all, जो आपका question है कि how to choose an organization. I think first of all, my guidance would be, please don't follow somebody else. Many people make the thing that they don't apply their mind, because 5 people are joining, they go in 5 people. They go because there is a brand, they think the brand effectively will give them what it is. Of course, the brand is important, but I think it's very important that somebody has to understand what are they looking for at different stages, do their diligence, talk to people, and get to the outcome. Just going to that, the other element of your question, that what are we looking for, and what skills are, what is new stuff happening? And I'll go on the consulting side of the business, and then maybe Girish can come in. I think from our perspective, see, India has become, there are no accountants in the United States of America. इस साल यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ कैलिफोर्निया बर्कली के ग्रेजुएट्स को जॉब नहीं मिल रहे हैं, हार्वर्ड के ग्रेजुएट्स को जॉब नहीं मिल रहे हैं, येल के ग्रेजुएट्स को जॉब नहीं मिल रहे हैं, लेकिन सीपीए नहीं है अमेरिका में, because not enough people became CPAs over the last 6 years. Now imagine, Girish and I were talking, accountancy is a global framework, okay? So imagine the power that Indian accountants who want to apply themselves have if they can apply themselves in a global market. So for example, we are looking for, whether it was, at KPMG and in accounting advisory a year, people who have knowledge of accounting, things like ACCA, which enable you in IFRS, or things like US CPA, become additional qualifications in this whole setup where the world is a market. So that's one big theme that's kind of playing out in our world. The second big theme that's kind of playing out is everything around risk and controls. See, business may grow, business may this thing, but risk and compliance continues to be the thing. So we are looking for people who have that aptitude on risk controls, etc. Right? So whether you call it internal audit, whether you call it, appreciation of how internal policies and procedures kind of work within a company. So that's another theme. Sustainability, while it's gone through ups and downs in America, but in many parts of Europe and many part of Middle East, we see a lot of demand for that. So I think there are many emerging areas in consulting, and I'm not even getting to AI, which I'll we may touch upon later. But I think broadly the thing is, there's tremendous opportunity for accounting and risk professionals in India, and those opportunities are what are available to everybody who's looking to start a career.
And you said that you've done US CPA, and you also said that people can do ACCA for the IFRS thing. So do you recommend that abhi jo CAs ho rahe, like let's say if someone clears CA at 21 or 22, they should do additional courses even apart from CA, और कौन से courses करने चाहिए, and बाकी courses का scope क्या रहेगा as far as their career development is concerned?
Yeah. So I'll keep it simple. You can complicate this whichever way you want, but मेरे हिसाब से अगर आपको इंटरनेशनल मार्केट्स में काम करना है तो आपको ACCA करना चाहिए मेरे हिसाब से. that's a big positive. It's the good news is हमारे standards themselves are close to the IFRS standards. So, but getting that additional qualification of ACCA in my mind is helpful. Similarly, if ultimately you want to work in the US, either indirectly or from India or effectively being in the US, I think CPA is also a good outcome. Whether you do it immediately or you do it later is हर किसी का अपना life situation अलग होता है. What we encourage people to do is to, after their qualification, start their work experience in a way, and unlike articleship जो CA में होता है कि आपको वही करना है, both ACCA and CPA you can do along with your working life as well, and that's what most working professionals do. So that would be my guidance.
Got it. Anything you want to add here in the courses thing?
Actually, I just will tell you how I looked at it. जब मैं करता था तो बहुत लोग के पास होते थे CA, ICWA, CS, MBA, कार्ड में
वो एक टाइम ऐसा
कम
होता
से
था.
कम 5-6 इतने अच्छे डिग्रीज लगते थे. तो मुझे कभी लगता था भाई खाली CA is enough, or should you do degrees and add to your CVs, and काफी अच्छा लगता था भाई, and very weighted 4.4, 5.5. like IIT, IIM and all that stuff. पर मुझे लगा भाई, after I did Arthur Andersen, CA and Arthur Andersen was enough to make a career.
Yeah.
We actually reached almost CEOs, both of us.
Yeah.
Both of us. And we both have only one degree or maybe one, you have the...
One, yeah.
तो मुझे लगता है डिग्री करनी चाहिए जो जरूरत नॉलेज के लिए,
एग्जैक्टली,
डिग्री इकट्ठा करने के लिए नहीं.
वेरी वेल सर.
अगर नॉलेज के लिए डिग्री है तो डिग्री करनी चाहिए, तो नहीं करनी चाहिए. और जैसे आपने कहा था भाई, यू नो लाइक फेलियर्स की आप बात करते हैं, लाइक CA स्टूडेंट्स, CA टफ, सीरियसली अटेम्प्टिंग, कम अगेन, काफी एक्रोनिम्स है जो फेलियर्स CA में. एंड आई नो पीपल हु टेकन 7-8 अटेम्प्ट्स एंड it's not easy for all. I mean, it's a journey which really tests you. I came first. And I came first. The whole world was like, everybody wrote to me for industrial training and all that stuff. And then I went for my final exam. I failed my first attempt. Both groups.
Oh.
Both groups. I failed my first attempt, both groups, disastrously.
My God.
Because 3 months before my exam, I lost my mother. And I was in no framework to give the exam. So like, when I went for the exam, I could not handle the exams. But obviously you can't go and tell the world that you had a personal problem. When I failed both groups, I was a public failure. People used to give examples, you know, CA exam, देखो जो first आया वो भी fail हो गया. So when I used to go to a library to study, people used to point out to me that ये लड़का देख CA first आके fail हो गया. But then you fought back and then you cleared and you came fourth in the immediate attempt which came. So failures happen with everybody. जो CA करते हैं उसको failure से डरना नहीं चाहिए. I think there are lots of, in our KPMG journey also, we came across so many articles failing and single member of the family earning, to whom that CA degree suddenly changes your comp from 5,000-6,000 to 50,000, right?
Yeah,
that time. Now it is more. Now it is 10 lakhs.
Yeah.
But failures are not. I failed public failure.
Yeah, I also want to just make one kind of point here, Kushal, that you know हम लोग काफी लोग emotional हो जाते हैं first attempt, second attempt, third attempt. ये कोई मायने नहीं रखता actually. You know, in our scheme of things, जब हम लोगों को देखते थे आफ्टर अ पर्टिकुलर टाइम रिक्रूटमेंट हो गया, और उसके बाद ईयर ऑन ईयर जब परफॉर्मेंस देखते थे तो कोई नहीं बोलता था कि ये फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट वाला है कि सेकंड अटेम्प्ट वाला है. सो टू दैट एक्सटेंट इट्स बाय द वे ऑन अ लाइटर नोट, you know, on the point on how tough CA is, and so one of my very close mentors is Deepak Parekh, and Parekh has publicly said that he couldn't clear his CA and that's why he went and did his UK kind of CA. One of our former CEOs, a guy called Sridhar Iyengar, KPMG के, हम लोग बहुत फॉर्चुनेट है उनके साथ काम करने के लिए, वो भी कभी CA नहीं कर पाए, तो वो फिर UK जाके, so I think the point really is that all of this is ultimately about knowledge and application of knowledge. A degree helps you to get started, of course. If you go without a degree, obviously it becomes a thing कि आपका कोई credibility नहीं है, कौन कैसे assess करे, आपको chance कैसे देगा. But once you have a degree, I think, you know, your ability to build on that is all a factor of आपका work experience क्या है, आपका aptitude क्या है.
Yeah. आपके लाइफ में सिमिलर लाइक ऐसे कुछ फेलियर्स जैसे हुए थे in the start of your career or?
No, actually I was very fortunate, and I'll actually more than so I wouldn't, you know, just a segue there. I think I was very, very, very fortunate to have good mentors actually. And those mentors, you know, in some way helped to make sure that I did not have any fatal kind of things happening along the way. Now that does not mean that failures can happen at different stages of your life. I did not have examination related failure. Actually, I had a dream run, but when you grow, you realize that in many things you want certain things, you believe you deserve certain things, but they don't happen for whatever reason. You feel dejected, you feel right कि क्यों हो रहा है हमारे साथ. That's when you have to pick up your inner self and say that, look, frankly, this is not the end of the world. Whether it is failure, whether it is disappointment, it's always keep applying yourself and the outcome will happen.
So can you give an example, something which did not happen the way you wanted it to happen?
Yeah, I think Girish spoke about the CEO process.
Yeah.
And you know, and when you participate in something like that, you're not doing it for time pass. You're doing it because you genuinely believe that you are the most credible this thing. Now, things happen. Things happen at a point in time. Things don't happen at a point in time. And then you take a call that if this is it, what do you then do and say, okay, now if this is not for me, that doesn't mean that I'm a failure or, oh, I will sulk and I'll say system is wrong. Who cares? Ultimately, that then you should think and you should then say, what is, all of this are life moments where you should reflect on what you want to do in life, actually. And I think, and I think each one of us has their moments. We've seen enough of these, kind of stories around. It's how you apply after that is what is meaningful.
One of the hot topics which also keeps on going on a lot of lunch table, dinner table conversations is the CA versus MBA thing. And recently there was a newsletter which was published as who a CA versus an MBA walks into a boardroom, who emerges as the CFO. And that newsletter had stated that MBAs are now taking over, etc. So we spoke about the qualifications thing like ACCA, CPA, but आपकी क्या advice है या तो आपका क्या recommendation है कि कोई CA को एक बार clear करते तो do you think कि MBA is a must for them, and if they should do तो why they should do?
मुझे लगता है it's not CA or MBA. It is about CA and a good organization, MBA and a good organization. अगर मैं CA करूं और अगर मैं KPMG में रहूं, जो एक्चुअली हम लोग साथ में थे, जमील, we saw everything. We had the best of wines. We went to the best of places. We had the most, like Deepak Parekh was Deepak to you since 30 years. How many people even had access to him?
Correct.
So a great organization interacting with the great people make you what it is. It's not CA or MBA. It is the grooming in your earlier jobs with the kind of people you interact with. I don't think both of us miss a Harvard or a Wharton. We are better than anybody. When we go and win pitches today as entrepreneurs, we win what we choose to win.
Sure.
So वो कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है, मुझे वो मिथ है CA वर्सेस MBA. हाँ, पर अगर आप देखेंगे, जैसे मैं आप बॉम्बे की बात कर रहा हूँ, आप बॉम्बे में रहते हैं. बॉम्बे में एक बॉम्बे है साउथ बॉम्बे, दूसरी बॉम्बे है बैंड्रा तक, फिर है बोरीवली मलाड. जो जैसे मलाड और बोरीवली में ड्रेस करता है, जो कप परेड में ड्रेस करता है, अलग है. वो माहौल का फर्क है. तो अगर CA अपने आप को राइट माहौल में रखेगा, वो MBA से बेटर रहेगा. माहौल बॉम्बे में बहुत फर्क है. आप एक्चुअली जाइए, ऑटो वर्ल्ड में जाइए, अलग है. पर वहां भी अच्छे अच्छे लोग आते हैं जो समझते हैं भाई ये दुनिया में अगर BKC दोनों को काम पे जाना है, BKC में कपड़े जैसे पहने जाते हैं, अलग है. Are you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So वो आदमी को ध्यान से देखना है, अपने सराउंडिंग को अडेप्ट करना है और आगे बढ़ना है. और मैं आपको एक और फेलियर की बात करते हैं, ये भी फेल हुए हैं KPMG, मैंने देखा है इनको, पर ये हमेशा बाउंस बैक किए हैं. आई ऑल्सो फेल्ड इन KPMG एट पब्लिक स्केल. आई टेल यू, बिग फोर में फेलियर्स बहुत एमिनेंट है. किसकी पार्टनरशिप मिस हो जाती है, किसकी मैनेजरशिप मिस हो जाती है, लगता है भाई कैटास्ट्रोफी हो गया, मैं अभी छोड़ देता हूँ, हमारे पार्टनर नहीं बना है. कितने लोग हमारे पास आते थे नाराज होके, भाई पार्टनर नहीं बना है, अभी हम जा रहे हैं छोड़ के. I think I failed at a public level like my CA failure in KPMG also. And it was not a CEO failure. When I was standing with the CEO, I had already left. I was already leaving. I stood for the fun of it. You stood to win. Yeah. I stood to enjoy the process. I enjoyed the process. I interacted with him, Akhil Bansal, and we all had got a good time. I failed at a public level. So, मैं M&A चला था. So if you recollect, Jamil, first I used to run the M&A business first 5 years. I used to head the M&A practice of KPMG. KPMG did an acquisition. They acquired a team from PwC. Around 200 people came and they joined our tax practice, and I was in M&A. So the team which came in, the person who came in from their side M&A replaced me overnight without me coming to me. And I think I was doing a good job because I was very successful at what I was doing. So there was news headlines. There was a ticker in CNBC. Girish Vanvari replaced by this. All my clients called me. अरे क्या हो गया? तो निकाल दिया. My children saw it. Like, Papa, what happened? You to work 24 hours a day and still you got replaced. I also didn't know why I got replaced. Correct. So if you recollect, Jamil, you were my support. If you recollect, you, Russell, you all carried me through this. So it was 6 months of uncertain. We spent so much time. Yeah. Should you knee-jerk react, leave? Correct. How should you do it? And they put me into something which I don't understand. They put me into international tax, which I had no clue. मतलब ट्रॉफी कैसे देते हैं भाई, अच्छा इसमें से निकलो, अभी वहाँ करो. And the international tax team was 4 times the M&A team. And then when the choice of the tax head came, because I had done both the businesses, I could be the head of tax. M&A भी आता था, international tax भी आता था, team चलाने आती थी. Then we both, he became the audit head, I became the tax head. तो failures होंगे, and that was public failure. Even he's gone through, I know, situations wherein he wanted to achieve something, he was pulled back. But I think we hung on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we had one another.
Yeah.
He's one, and there are many more friends
people.
we had.
Correct.
We had one another.
Yeah, no, it's a...
So deep friendships help in corporates.
Yeah, you need to, I think the one very interesting point Girish ने touch किया कि आप जो भी situation में है, आपको उससे आप क्या सीख सकते हैं. So I'll tell you a story which is, spoken very widely at across the whole CA fraternity. जब मैंने अपना जॉब चालू किया KPMG में 1996 में, मैं रैंकर था, मैं भी फाउंडेशन में एंड इंटर में भी. और मैंने जब स्टार्ट किया वहाँ उस टाइम पे, तो पहला जॉब में मेरा मैनेजर ने बोला कि अभी मैं आ गया हूँ, अब क्या करना है मुझे. तो कि आपको होल गार्ड लगाने हैं. आपको पता है होल गार्ड क्या होता है? नहीं. पहले ऐसी पेपर की फाइल होती थी. अब पेपर की वजह से पेपर नहीं फटे, तो उसके लिए ऐसे प्लास्टिक के होल गार्ड आते थे जो आपको लगाने होते हैं. तो फिर आपका पहला जॉब ये होल गार्ड लगाना है. तो मैंने कहा यार मैं तो सीए का रैंकर हूँ, मतलब क्या होल गार्ड है. तो मेरे मैनेजर ने बोला नहीं आपको अकेले नहीं करना, आपको टीम देते हैं हम 4 लोगों की. तो मैंने कहा 4 लोगों की टीम, आपको तो खाली फाइल होल गार्ड करनी है. कि नहीं आपको 100 फाइलें ऐसी करनी है, राइट. तो अब मैं गया, वो बाकी जो मेरे साथ जो 3 लोग थे बोले हमको तो नहीं करना है, हम तो सीए हुए हैं, हम ये क्यों करेंगे. एनीवेज आई सेड अभी करना ही है तो कर लेते हैं. तो आई वेंट बैक टू दैट मैनेजर. मैंने मैनेजर को बोला मेरे कितना टाइम है. तो ये टाइम है, जितना टाइम लेना है. मैंने कहा मेरे को 1 महीना चाहिए. तो मैंने क्या किया, मैंने कहा अगर मैं हर पेपर को जाके ये लगा रहा हूँ तो मैं पेपर पढ़ ही लेता हूँ, कुछ सीखने को तो मिलेगा. एंड ऐसे ही पढ़ के मेरे को पूरी वो बैंक में ऑडिट कैसी होती है वो समझ हो गया. 6 महीने बाद, वेरी सिमिलर टू व्हाट गिरीश सेड, 6 महीने बाद वो डिसाइड करना था कि टैक्स ऑडिट कौन करेगा. तो बैंक के अंदर कॉर्पोरेट बैंकिंग होती है, ट्रेजरी होती है, रिटेल होती है. वो कॉर्पोरेट वाला बोला मेरे को तो ट्रेजरी नहीं आती है, रिटेल वाला बोला मेरे को कॉर्पोरेट नहीं आती है. इट सीम्स आई वाज द ओनली गाय who had a half understanding of how the entire bank actually worked, and I became the in charge for the tax audit, and the rest, as they say, is history. So how you react to a particular situation and use it to your advantage to learn. जैसे गिरीश ने बताया कि इंटरनेशनल M&A करने थे, आपका वो होता है हर चीज में जिंदगी में आप क्या लर्न कर पाते हो, that is going to move your part. I'll just make another to your point on MBA versus CA. So I was with मेरे क्लाइंट थे जो he was one of the richest men in the world, and उनकी एक कंपनी में एक प्रॉब्लम हो गया था. तो जब प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हुआ, बहुत टाइम लगा हमको सॉल्व करने के लिए, और एक दिन वो मेरे साथ लिफ्ट में थे. तो उन्होंने मेरे को बताया कि ऐसे बोलते हैं कि जमील इससे बहुत एक बड़ी लर्निंग हुई है ज़िंदगी में. तो ऐसे क्या लर्निंग हुई है सर? लर्निंग ये हुई है कि नेवर हैव अ MBA फाइनेंस एज योर CFO. ओके, बिकॉज उस जगह प्रॉब्लम क्या था कि जो MBA फाइनेंस समझता था बिजनेस, लेकिन उसको नंबर नहीं समझ आते थे, or he had not understood the regulatory environment. So I think to the point, I don't think the degree matters. It is the person and the job and how you apply yourself kind of matters. We know enough. Why CFOs? There are enough CEOs who are chartered accountants, enough entrepreneurs that are chartered accountants. What is required is the environment, as Girish said, और आप अपने लिए क्या करते हो डेवलप करने के लिए. For example, हमको पता है कि CA कोर्स में सॉफ्ट स्किल्स के डेवलपमेंट में और इम्प्रूवमेंट की ज़रूरत है. हमको पता है ब्रॉड ओवरऑल नॉलेज में थोड़ी कमी होती है in terms of how you do it. How do you supplement that while doing your CA is going to make the difference whether you'll be a successful leader, not what degree you hold.
Yeah. अभी एक्चुअली क्या ट्रेंड हो गया, लाइक व्हेनेवर आई स्पीक टू लॉट ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स हु रीच आउट टू मी, उनको ऐसा लगता है कि CA करने के बाद फिर भी ऐसे इतना होल्ड या वैल्यू नहीं लगती, एंड दैट्स व्हाई दे आर लाइक कि MBA करना ही करना है. एंड देयर हैज़ बीन अ ट्रेंड नाउ कि बहुत सारे CA से सोचते हैं कि चलो ब्रांड चाहिए तो वील अप्लाई टू लेट्स से HSW, हार्वर्ड, स्टैनफोर्ड, वॉटन, आईवी लीग या तो IIMs ऑफ द वर्ल्ड एंड ऑल. एंड देन उसके बाद एवरेज पैकेज में मतलब अभी वो कंपेयर करते हैं, जैसे CS का एवरेज पैकेज एज पर ICI कैंपस प्लेसमेंट रिपोर्ट इज 11 lakhs per annum, and they try to compare this with, let's say, an IIM Ahmedabad, IIM Bangalore, which is 34 to 35 lakhs per annum. And when they see this wide disparity, so they are like कि फिर MBA के लिए जंप करने चाहिए, which is why the question कि is it like a trend, is it mandatory कि MBA करना ही चाहिए, नहीं करना चाहिए? And that's why I also tell a lot of people कि it's all up to आपको ultimately क्या करना है, and MBA is not going to be the like it's not going to be the only thing which will make you successful.
Correct.
It's more about आप कहाँ पे कैसे job कर रहे हो. Even CA rankers, if you see, the average package of CA ranker is in the range of 20 to 25 lakhs per annum.
Correct.
When I joined Aditya Birla Group, I fortunately got All India rank 5 in my finals. When I joined EBG, I was at a 18.25 lakhs per annum package, and 2 years में वो 25 LPA हो गया था. People also in my batch, the highest package was received by a person in Bank of America of 70 lakhs per annum, and he was a CA. 35 fixed, 35 variable.
Correct.
So that's why the question of CA versus MBA.
And I think the assessment is right. Actually, I'll tell you, हम लोग तो जब recruit करते हैं, and we are now at Unicast 550 people. We recruit like 300, 400 people every year. हम लोग honestly ये सब नहीं देखते हैं actually. What हम लोग देखते हैं कि बाबा किसी के पास कितना experience है, क्या कर रहा है, और क्या हमारे लिए नीड वो कर रहा है. तो आई थिंक दैट टाइम फ्रैंकली इज गॉन. आई गो बैक टू दैट पॉइंट आई मेड अर्ली. अगर इतना ही सिंपल होता कि आप MBA की डिग्री ले लो, आपको जॉब मिल जाते, तो इस साल इतने सारे लोग नहीं होते जिनके प्लेसमेंट नहीं हो पाए ना. So I go back to that point to everybody that stay grounded in what is right for you and don't get carried away.
Yeah. And a lot of people also ask this question about exposure that they'll get while working in a big four and then versus working in a boutique firm. Now, since you have worked in KPMG for so many years, both of you, and then you have also started your own organizations, what's your advice for someone who's about to start their career कि starting में big four में थोड़े साल job कर लो, exposure ले लो, brand ले लो, and then boutique firm में जाओ, या तो boutique firm में चालू करो, बहुत अच्छा exposure मिलेगा, and then खुद का startup करो, या like what do you think, like big four, is it like a good way to start someone's career or no?
I think it depends upon what you want to do. So like take a firm like ours, or maybe I think Jamil, maybe your case also. Take an example. M&A. ठीक है, हम लोग M&A करते हैं, लीग टेबल में आते हैं, टॉप 4 में रहते हैं हमेशा. एक बिग फोर को तो बीट करते हैं यार सर इन नंबर ऑफ डील्स. M&A. अगर एक आदमी बिग फोर में M&A में रहे तो वो M&A करेगा से इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर का, वो M&A करेगा इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर बॉम्बे का, तो उसका लिमिटेशन ऑन दैट स्पेसिफिक एरिया इतनी बड़े जंगल में एक ही रहेगा. वैसे अगर हमारे से फर्म में काम करेगा, वो सब करेगा, सब जगह M&A करेगा, पूरा देश घूमेगा, सब डिफरेंट क्लाइंट्स के क्लाइंट्स करेगा, सब इंडस्ट्रीज करेगा, उसका एक्सपीरियंस बहुत रहेगा. तो अगर 2-3 साल के बाद कुछ डिसाइड भी करना चाहे, वो उसका पर्सपेक्टिव ज़्यादा रहेगा. और बुटीक फर्म्स नॉर्मली पे इक्वल और मोर देन अ बिग फोर.
Oh, is it?
Because boutique firms like they would be equal or more.
Yeah.
Equal or more चुके जैसे अभी हम लोगों ने चालू किया है, हमेशा लगता है भाई पहले पीपल को ध्यान देना चाहिए, फिर एंड एवरीबडी शेयर्स. हमारा कल्चर ही वो है, हम लोग कहाँ से आते हैं, शेयरिंग, बोनसेस, वो पार्ट ऑफ आवर कल्चर. वी नेवर थॉट पार्टनर कितना पीछे रहता है. हाउ पीपल गो टू अ बेटर फ्यूचर इज ऑलवेज व्हाट वी थॉट. तो बुटीक फर्म का हमेशा कॉम्प विल बी इक्वल और मोर टू अ बिग फोर. वो बेसिस पे तो फिर एक्सपीरियंस रहता है. तो वी गेट वेरी वेरी लॉट्स ऑफ CV फ्रॉम बिग फोर पीपल ऑल्सो. भाई हम लोग अभी थक गए वही करके, तो कैन वी जस्ट डू समथिंग. वी सिलेक्टिवली हायर, बट वी कांट हायर एवरीबडी. बट दोनों जगह से सीखने को बहुत मिलता है.
I think my own assessment again here is actually the whole, it is, what is a person clear on what they want out of this whole thing? If you're an average person who just wants a brand to get you going, maybe you're better off in a big four. But if you effectively see yourself as somebody who wants to genuinely excel in what you want to do, whatever that area might be, want the exposure, the breadth of exposure. For example, Unicast mein, a lot of people join Unicast because they also feel they'll get a global exposure from day zero. अब ये कोई बिग फोर में नहीं मिलता, राइट? बट देयर मे बी अदर्स में से हमको नहीं चाहिए ग्लोबल एक्सपोजर, हमारे को तो बेसिकली यही करना है, व्हाटएवर आई वांट टू थिंक. सो आई थिंक that really is, it goes back to that first question that we said, that what are you looking for don't follow the herd, look at this thing, do your diligence, and that as long एक वो fitment हो जाता है, then I don't think it is a matter of whether it is a big four brand or whether it is a specialized consulting company.
But then, Girish, to your point, let's say when you say that exposure is good here, etc., and then people get to work in different varieties and different parts of the country as well. But बहुत सारे लोगों का ऐसा होता है कि स्टार्टिंग में उनको सीवी बनाने के लिए एक ब्रांड चाहिए, राइट? तो
मैं आपको अभी
उनके लिए क्या
रियल लाइफ एग्जाम्पल बताता हूँ. जैसे मैंने कहा, मेरी एक बेटी है जो HDFC में, मेरा लड़का जय वनवारी CA है. You know what is more difficult, Jamil, than giving your own CA exam is when your son gives a CA exam. I still remember, like, when he went for his CA exams, I was tracking it by the hour. 5 o'clock he's out. Let me call him up. He's okay and all that stuff. So when my son did his articles, and then we also had this debate, and it was very easy for us to get into any big four. He was capable. He would have applied. He would have got it.
Correct.
And that time we debated very hard. Like, should we do, a boutique firm articles? Should he join a boutique firm, or should he go out and get, a big four thapa? And at that point of time, we objectively debated and said the breadth of experiences are very important. And today when I see him, I have made him he started to do from returns of income, basic mundane stuff. And today when he has reached, he's now a fourth year CA. When he gives advice, Jamil, is from the ground.
Absolutely.
He knows that what advice he will give, what will happen eventually to the advice.
Yeah.
And not just hawa mein kuch bhi bol diya aur chale gaye. And then when I see the gathering of his friends who come to home, some are in big fours, some are in bigger consulting firms, they're all bored. They are still figuring out what they want to do in my life.
Yeah.
Whereas my son is more sure of how to deal with clients, how to interpersonally handle clients, how to talk. Like, he will also get his Deepak much earlier, Jamil.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Than what a big four
they won't have access.
person will.
There are 10 layers between.
So I'm going through this with my son in real life, and I think that he's learning in a more focused manner. And I'm proud of him, actually. Very proud of him. I think what he is learning is quicker than what I learned with the exposure. Because I also was in a big firm. Anderson was a big firm. Yes, I learned other skills. But so here we both would have, say, you also would have 30-40 people who are big four. वो कैसे दही जमाने के लिए दही डालते हैं, फिर दूध दही बन जाती है. तो हमारे फर्म में जो दही है वो तो बिग फोर की है ना. जो 30 लोग हैं वो तो बिग फोर है, जिन्होंने अभी 400 लोग बनाए हैं.
एक्चुअली हमारा थोड़ा अलग है. हमारा तो पूरे 500 लोग बिग फोर के ही है. एंड एक्चुअली व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इन आवर केस, इट गोज बैक टू दैट पॉइंट. Actually, this is a point. Okay, I genuinely feel this. See, there was a time where people who did not make partner in a big four, who were not super successful, said, "हम कोई किधर भी चले जाते हैं, हो जाएगा." I think in organization like ours, and as even Girish said, he's choosing selectively. In organization like ours, actually people who are super good but feel averaged out in the big four are the people who are joining Unicus. Because they're saying, वहाँ हम कुछ भी कर लें, there are 20,000 others who will average me out. But if I believe in myself, and this is across levels, not just for freshers, people who believe that they are their own brand, their capabilities and skills are what sets them apart, they don't need a brand. And honestly, we want those kind of people. So that's really the play.
From what I get after listening to both your answers is that initially, like, instead of focusing on the brand and the pay, it's more important to focus on the learning that you will get. Correct. And the exposure.
I would not say brand or no brand. I would say good firm.
Yeah.
A branded firm also can be a very good firm.
Fair.
Very fair.
A non-branded boutique firm can also be a very good firm. How much you want to learn in that good firm, who will treat you well, invest in you, take your career ahead, is where you have to focus.
Yeah.
Very well
and not
said.
just blindly go, मैं X या Y जा रहा हूँ.
Yeah.
So for Jay, this was a more appropriate bet. For Drishti, HDFC was a better bet for what she is doing.
Correct.
But they both are great firms.
Yeah.
Firm cannot be compromised.
When are they joining Transaction Square?
Jay is
Jay
in
is
Transaction
with
Square.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Drishti though is in her own path.
Got it. Fair. And just one question on the Big Four hierarchy and the salary structure, and also let's compare it with the boutique firm. You said that कि boutique firm are paying equal or more as compared to Big
Correct.
Four. तो आप example दे सकते हो कि एक Big Four में जो भी हायरार्कीज होती है उसमें अलग अलग लेवल्स पे क्या सैलरी रेंज एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं, एंड सेम विजावी बुटीक फर्म में अगर कोई आता है तो कैसे करियर ट्रेजेक्टरी होगा एंड क्या क्या सैलरी रेंजेस एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं?
I would say start salary everywhere is same. So now the start salary everywhere, which is gross package, is 16-17 lakhs.
अच्छा, 16 हो गया है.
So सब जगह 12-13 लाख होता है और 20-25% बोनस तो आ ही जाता है. तो if you add the, क्या है, हम लोग एज अकाउंटिंग फर्म बराबर पोजीशन नहीं करते. अगर आप जाते हैं बड़ी कंसल्टिंग फर्म्स में, मैकेंजी है, वहाँ वो बोलते हैं कॉस्ट टू कंपनी इज 17 lakhs. हम लोग बोलेंगे 13 lakhs प्लस बोनस, तो लगता है भी 13 lakhs. तो अगर ऐड करेंगे जो बोनस, आई थिंक एवरीबडी गिव्स 20-25% अश्योर्ड बोनस. 16-17 lakhs सब जगह. उसके आगे जो मैनेजर प्रमोशन, सीनियर मैनेजर, सब जगह ऑलमोस्ट कंपेरेबल. बिकॉज वी कैन नॉट बी इन बिजनेस अनलेस वी आर बिलो बिग फोर. एंड इन बुटीक फर्म यू आर प्रीमियम विद योर क्लाइंट्स ऑल्सो. Because for what you do, you're so good, the client puts a premium on it. It's like a specialized doctor, a heart surgeon who's known for that heart surgery will always have a premium.
Yeah.
We are premium firms, right? We are doing what we are very good at.
Yeah.
M&A and the risk accounting and...
Yeah.
तो बिग फोर में लाइक लेट्स से प्रमोशंस देन जो हो रहे हैं लाइक इवन अप टू द पार्टनर लेवल, मतलब वी आर लाइक अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल आर क्यूरियस टू नो आल्सो, तो पार्टनर लेवल पे भी जब जाते हैं लाइक व्हाट आर द लाइक हाउ डज द कॉम्पेंसेशन और ऑल ऑफ दैट वर्क्स देयर?
मैं आपको बताता हूँ, ये बिग फोर पार्टनरशिप भी मिथ है. ये यंगेस्ट पार्टनर थे KPMG में.
हाँ.
When I left KPMG I was 45. So at 45 we had reached a pinnacle of our careers. I was head of tax for 6 years. I think Jamil, you also was. We entered the leadership team together. So I left head of tax of KPMG at 46. Means I was a tax head at 39. 6-7 years I was head of tax. 39 years में कहाँ tax head बनेगा आज? आप बताइए. और I get a lot of questions that which is the best big four. I say KPMG by miles. Miles. Why miles? Do you think it would have been possible for you to stand as a CEO in any other firm in the country? बाकी देखो, have you seen a second CEO of EY? एक ही जन चला रहा है. और कौन CEO? कोई नहीं. Actually, if you see, we could be what we want to be at our ages. So we reached the pinnacle of our career very early. We were very lucky because we were at the growth stage of KPMG.
That is the point.
When I joined KPMG, tax practice was 40 people in one room we could all sit.
Correct.
When I left a team of 2,400 people. So we were lucky we grew with it. आज कोई जाएगा बिग फोर में, बॉटम से पार्टनर बनेगा, बहुत बड़ा पाथ है. पाथ है.
No,
it's not easy.
I know.
It's not easy.
I think, yeah. So go ahead, Anil. Go ahead.
So,
please.
it's like the target pressure, the numbers, it's not easy. So suppose if I would say any person like तू जा बिग फोर 15 साल में पार्टनर बन जाएगा, वो हमारे केस में 10 years था.
Yeah, correct.
बट अभी नहीं हो सकता है. अभी टाइम लगेगा. 15-20 कोई तो करियर में नहीं बनेंगे.
नहीं बनते हैं. कितने पार्टनर बनाएंगे?
ये मिथ है. ये मिथ है. सॉरी, अभी ये मिथ है. That's why people like our firms are getting more people because people have realized that. Then you might as well work for the joy of working. No, why are you working with pressure of working?
Yeah.
In our firm, you're doing for the joy of working.
Correct. And I think as Girish said, I think the compensation, just going back to that point, look, on this, you can go as high as you want it to be. I think it's publicly reported that actually most partners, big four, specialized firms, wherever they, effectively the number of people who make $1.5 crore plus is crazy. And it's easy to get there, right? But ultimately the question is, will you get to partnership or not? And for most parts, I think compensation levels between high performing specialized firms and the big four is, like as Girish pointed out, the same. The way we also look at it is that ultimately, again, Girish made this point that we want to share the equity and the wealth with all the people who are growing with us, and I think that's really the model.
Got it.
To us, the brand is more important. Transaction Square should be everywhere. That is more important. Client should be feeling that उनका फायदा हुआ. नाम अच्छा होना चाहिए. चलिए, जो भी शोहरत कमानी थी हमने कमा ली KPMG में. जब भी हम लोगों ने छोड़ा सब कमा लिया. अभी you Google us, we'll have so many things about us.
Yeah.
True.
Now you're doing for a purpose.
Most
just
of
to
our,
grow careers.
most of it is true.
Yeah, most of it is. But KPMG is the best firm. I think if I had to put my son anywhere other than transaction, it would be KPMG if he chose to be. Best firm. We really had a good time.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate more on that? Why KPMG so much, and why do you think it's the best Big Four?
It is the best Big Four because KPMG globally is not the strongest firm. जिसको भी यहाँ करना है या अपने बलबूते पे करना है. I remember Jamil used to sign Infosys, Wipro. I think you were Wipro as an audit head. You had the best audit, which were not global audits.
Not at all.
Best companies in India. He used to go and pitch and win and come. I used to work on the best companies. And ऐसे नहीं नेटवर्क से काम आ रहा है, कोई यूएस से भेज रहा है, कोई यूके से भेज रहा है, सब यही क्रिएट करना पड़ता है. तो मार्केट फोकस्ड होता है. अदर देन बिग फोर कोई खड़ा ही नहीं कर सकता अपना फर्म. चलिए जब भी वो निकलेगा उसके रिश्ते ही नहीं रहेंगे. चलिए सब ब्रांड से चलता है. जैसे जब भी हम लोग निकले,
हमने हमने बनाया था.
अरे आई डोंट नो जमील, आई थिंक there would not be one day which you were free. Have you been one day free? I have not been one day free. Because हम लोग मार्केट में जाते थे, काम लेके आते थे. जमील मुझे कोई क्लाइंट के पास लेके जाता था, मैं लेके जाता था इसके पास. हम लोग साथ में भी पिच करते थे, बट अपने बलबूते पे लेके आते थे. नेटवर्क काम बहुत कम आता था, तो इसलिए आदमी मर्द बनता था. जाके जीत के आओ. बाकी बिग फोर में नेटवर्क काम आता है. अच्छा वो ग्लोबल से आता है, ग्लोबल से आता है. तो जब भी आदमी निकलता है यहाँ से बिग फोर से, तो क्या लेके निकलेगा? नेटवर्क रोक देता है सब काम. तो अदर देन बिग फोर, यू रियली थिंक हु हैज बिल्ट अ फर्म?
Other than KPMG.
There will not be another Unicus.
Yeah.
Because the exit barriers are so much.
Yeah, actually, the only other firm that was comparable like that was Anderson.
But Anderson was a network.
No, I know, but I'm just saying.
Correct.
Since then, exactly
Correct.
to your point.
Because Anderson was the smallest of the big four.
And they had same entrepreneurial spirit,
Correct.
same spirit
Correct.
of in each individual places, not just the Anderson brand, but the quality of people who made Anderson what it was, and then they then carried on the legacy whichever they had to. So.
Actually, I think Transaction is a significant entry barrier. Though the only one place who is really respected and above us is Dinesh Kanabat, Dhruva. Otherwise, there is not another Transaction Square or Dhruva after that. Because to leave
Yeah, no, absolutely.
the secretaries, to leave the comfort zone, to go out and start. KPMG से निकलेगा तो KPMG से निकलेगा.
I'll tell you a funny story. When we started Unicus, and I remember my first partner, who's a former KPMG leader, joined. And super excited. 2nd January 2023, Sagar Lakhani. And he came super excited to me and says, Abhi Jamil, all done. Abhi karna kya hai? I said, abhi to office dhoondni hai. I said, dude, like office dhoondni hai. And but I think the joy, once again, to do so much, you're like an entrepreneur. How many platforms give you the ability in our industry for our skills and experience to be true entrepreneurs, not just professionals? You can be a professional equally in a big company or a specialized company, but you can be an entrepreneur only in a specialized company.
That's a very, very good point. And which brings me to the next question, which is the entire generalist versus the specialist argument, which keeps happening. So a person who's starting their career now, ultimately, like both of you are saying that specialist is something which they should strive for ultimately to make a good amount of money and even like a good brand. But in the start of the career, do you still feel that a generalist role, which will give them exposure to a lot of different varieties of departments, is better, and then going for specialist, or specialist starting se karna chahiye and throughout their career?
My view on this is that first of all, it depends on your mental makeup. There are some people who know what they want to do. As I mentioned at the start of our conversation, unke liye, if you know what you want to do and what is giving you joy, the sooner you start specializing, the better. But if you may very well be a person by nature of who you are, that you want to try and experiment a few things, right? Then you got to kind of get into an environment which will give you the breadth of doing what it is doing, right? And I think that will then lead you to where you have to be. I don't think there is one answer. I'll just make one point before Girish comes in. I actually compare this whole move to specialization, in services to what happened in manufacturing 20 years ago. So let's say I call it disaggregation of services. So if you look at an auto company ko components kharidne hai. Now Mahindra will not go and say to companies, listen, give me all components. they'll go to the best piston maker. They'll go to the best braking system maker. They'll go to the best wiring system and the best electronics company. Same thing is happening in services today. Customers are not saying that we want just a brand and a platform to do it. Customers are saying, who is the best Sarbanes-Oxley practitioner? Who is the best climate risk practitioner? Who is the best IPO readiness kind of a practitioner? Who's the best cybersecurity practitioner? And that is the power of the specialist organization and people who work out there.
Wow. And these doesn't necessarily have to be like the big brands.
We won a $3 million contract from one of the largest oil companies globally. And I was just telling to Girish, and I actually went to a key sponsor there and asked him that, why did you trust us with this? Like super complex climate risk work. And his response was, your team demonstrated the capability. And then I asked him, but sir, what about the brand? He said, I am the brand. I said, I'm the brand. I don't need a brand. I need somebody to get the job done. That is where the world will go to.
Wow. Super amazing. What do you have to say on that?
No, I would absolutely say it's super specialization. And what I also think is that, but super specialization also needs growth, right? So you should grow through your adjacencies. So like say M&A, valuations, diligence. Now we have moved on to family offices. In family offices, now we'll move on to insurance. So adjacencies. But suppose tomorrow, if I start doing what Jamil is doing, I'll fall.
Or I start doing what you're doing.
I'll fall. Yeah. I'll fall. But so I'm sure you're also expanding on the adjacency, advisory adjacencies. I'm moving on the deal space adjacency and so adjacencies, not thing. But otherwise, I think, at a general level, super specialization and generalism. What and like, you love your mother, you love your father, you love your girlfriend if you have one.
I don't have one, but yeah.
You love your brother, sister.
Yeah.
You and, right? Yeah. So life is about generalism. I am a great M&A professional and a great family office consultant and a great friend to Jamil and a great father to my 2 children. So I think you have to have an open mind so that when you're conversing, I know enough of what he does. I can't do it, but I know enough. I can carry a conversation through.
Yeah.
So and is very important.
No, but इसमें कभी-कभी क्या होता है, then the mind becomes a little distracted if you have too many hands. Don't you think so?
No.
Okay.
No. I know I will not win his work. I will refer work to him. But I will carry a conversation for a client to help him judge what does he need and whom should he get. Should he suppose we work on projects together a lot, sir, where I do the structuring and all, he does the accounting, finer nuances for IPO readiness. We complement each other. And the client directly reaches out to both of us separately.
Yeah.
On a lot of our big projects, he's in the background accounting, advising. I'm doing the tax and the regulatory part. So specialization is what we sell. Generalism is what we converse to make better decisions for our client as business advisors, because we are all business advisors at the end of it.
I think the way to look at it, Kushal, is that I think this and is not about, from a skill perspective, trying to do very opposite thing. But for any professional to be impactful with their client, if they don't know communication, if they don't know relationship management, if they don't do solutioning, what is the good of being the best practitioner if you can't communicate that to your client? I mean, as a professional, I'm going to that side, not at a firm level. And therefore, the question really for a professional is that even as you specialize, how do you not kind of stop being a general professional all around? What are those things? Empathy is important, irrespective of whether you're a tax practitioner or you are an accounting advisory practitioner, team management and so on. So I think that's another lens to look at it, that even as you go as a specialist on a functional area, how do you have general life skills that will help you succeed as a leader or the professional?
And when you would be hiring people in your organization, तो आप किस पे ज़्यादा weightage put करोगे on the hard skills which they have, which is let's say Excel, financial modeling, or any hard skills which are required in the profession, or versus the soft skills that you just mentioned, which is relationship management, business development, and how do we acquire these skill sets?
So it depends on the level. right? At which you recruit. I think the more kind of earlier in your career, the more functional skills are more important, which is the technical skills, because your job itself is that to go and apply yourself to a project and deliver. But if you're doing lateral hires, it becomes more and more important in terms of determining, can a person hold a client conversation, can a person make an impact, can they do business development, can they do many other things, etc. So the higher you go, at some levels, when you go, for example, we're recruiting leaders in the US, in Saudi Arabia, in Abu Dhabi. Honestly, I don't care how much of finance transformation they actually know. All I want to understand is how many clients have they won, what do their clients feel about them, how have they managed teams and capabilities, have they built practices. So the higher up you go, the functional skills become less relevant. Now that does not mean you can have no functional skills. Then that this comes back with due respect to the MBA versus the CA question. So I think starting at the starting, we've put a lot more focus on the functional and technical skills. As you go up, the softer skills become more important.
Got it. And any specific new skills or any specific like even in the technical skills you're looking for when you hire people कि हाँ ये तो skill आनी चाहिए तो ही मैं इसको interview करूँगा, something of that sort?
I think now the way I'm seeing it is the ability to adopt technology in whatever skill you possess is where the focus is, because AI is taking over a lot of our stuff. So Jamil, I'll take you for example, like ChatGPT is answering all tax questions.
Amazing, yeah.
So, how to know that 5 AI tools which will get you an answer on the skill you have from an accounting, tax, valuation. That is, I think, very important. So I think the adaptation to the new technologies, adaptation to the new, better ways of doing things is a very important skill today.
Yeah.
In whatever we do, Jamil, today.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Kushal, that's where I think that I test people.
No, so I was just asking, so you said AI. So आपकी organization में, like, what are some day-to-day AI tools both of you are using in your companies, and वो AI tools के through कैसे efficiency improve हुआ है?
See, there are lots of AI tools. First of all, from a knowledge perspective, there are a lot of knowledge tools also. There is Taxman, Tax Guru. There are so many different things where you don't have to really go and invent the interpretation. Lots available. It's 90% of the stuff is available through subscription of great databases. 10% is adaptation to your situation and then taking a judgment on it. That now this I know are the 4 options, what is right for my client and what is good for him, and presenting that. So I think to adapt those 4 subscription things, and then there are these automated query tools also. Institute also has a great query tool actually for accounting, and you can pose a query and you get great answers actually. They are 90% there. I mean, you have to adapt it a little bit, but they're 90% there. Institute has it. There are other databases. ChatGPT has a separate tax tool. So many different stuff we are there, and we're using it, and it's making things very efficient.
Yeah.
Very efficient.
Yeah, I think I'll kind of my lens on this. I want to go back to that question you asked around what new skills are people looking for, and I'll come to technology and AI, because that's actually very core to what we do at Unicus. But before that, I think for us 2 things are super critical. One is agility. Actually, we believe nobody knows what is going to happen in the world over the next 1 year, and this is going to be the play for the world in the future. So one of the things we really look for, particularly as more senior people come in, is will they be able to adapt to uncertainty, and how agile are they in terms of figuring out this works, that does not work. And that's really important. We have values which are linked to agility. Agility is the first value at Unicus actually. So just from that. The second thing for us, which is very important, is multicultural ability. So we are a global company, and for us, the ability for somebody in India to work alongside a colleague in the US, the ability for somebody in the US to work alongside a colleague in Saudi Arabia, I think that we have 17 nationalities already in the company. And therefore, the ability to culturally appreciate each other's thing is very important as far as we are concerned. And I think this is going to equally become important for anybody who wants to be a global professional in the future, right? So agility and cultural, empathy and willingness to understand is something I would say all professionals should embrace that. I think on AI, honestly, we are super bullish on what's happening out there. We just love this. So we call it Unicus AI. We already have a product out. It's called UniQuest. It's publicly kind of, we did the launch. And what we basically did, for example, in our work, very similar to what Girish said, the technical accounting, white papers, research work that we do, the ChatGPT itself is amazing. We created a wrapper around ChatGPT where our wrapper then goes and scrapes only the more relevant information as opposed to the general kind of stuff. Whether my CTO is a former Amazon guy, my deputy CTO is an Accenture US. I got a 50 people product engineering team that just does this. So from our perspective, we've cracked the code there, right? And we believe that we are way ahead of what the market has achieved. We just kind of touched the start right now. The power of AI is actually now, how can you move? So today we've got a productivity gain of 40%, let's assume, right? I think you can get to a 90% the machine doing it. So you can potentially create an AI agent that will do revenue recognition white papers.
What do you mean by that?
So basically, let's say in the US, for example, if you enter into a big contract, the finance department wants an analysis of that contract, wants an analysis of what technical literature applies, right? There is guidance. It's called ASC 606. And typically, historically, accountants in America have prepared these white papers. Each of these white papers cost $40,000, okay, to make. In the first step, we said, why do you need somebody in America to do this white paper? So we've cracked the code of somebody sitting in India and doing a revenue recognition white paper for $20,000. That's the first step. Then you basically bring in UniQuest on top of that and said, if I took earlier to develop $20,000, I took $200, okay, which gave me a realization of $100 an hour. Can I reduce $200 using UniQuest, which is ChatGPT kind of driven, from 200 to 140 hours? Done. Ho gaya. Now, can I do it in 10 hours actually? And that is the power of the agent that will do it, while my co-pilot will only review the output for 10 hours and I will deliver for 10 hours, I will deliver $20,000 of revenue. I tell you, Sam Altman made this point a few weeks ago where he said that in his view, it is a matter of time within a few years where there will be $1 billion valued company, a unicorn with only one employee. The rest will be agents. And that, I think, is the power of AI in all our businesses. How you embrace it is going to define us, actually.
But then, don't you think it might be risky to trust all the output? Some accuracy challenges might be there.
So that is why you need the 10 hours. So think about it, right? Today, at the highest level of reviews are done at that level. 90% is extraction, research, benchmarking, report writing, and the advisory. Advisory will remain advisory. 10 could become 20. I don't know. My guys tell me I'm kind of totally off on this. It'll be 30. I don't care. My point is 140 cannot be 140.
Yeah.
140 has to reduce to a very low number. That is the power. And somebody will do it. Whether we like it or not, somebody will do it. It will not be a big four. I can assure you. Whether it will be us or somebody like us,
correct,
who will do it faster than us is the challenge and is the opportunity.
आपने बताया चैट जीपीटी टैक्स टूल के बारे में. सो व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज दैट एंड क्या आप क्वेश्चन एग्जांपल दे सकते हो, क्या पूछा एंड उसने क्या जवाब दिया, कैसे
you can absolutely put absolute questions like I'm doing this transaction, what is the deduction rate? You can make presentations also, like I want to present of the withholding tax provisions in India. A presentation comes out, so you don't need to have people doing hours and hours of stuff. So Jamil, you're right. I mean 60-70% we are reaching now today with basic stuff.
Correct.
I think the trick is who gets to 90 soonest will win. And if you see even the forms and the various integration of technology of the government of India, the income tax portal, the MCA portal, they also all integrated. They take knowledge, the information in a very, very structured format. So you fill a fact sheet, it automatically goes to the various columns and automatically you know how much tax you have to pay, how you move forward. Things are changing very, very fast.
I have one advice for all professionals actually. And I tell, I was recently with a group of 100 people in Bombay with our team and I said, you guys should experiment a lot more actually. people should play around a lot more with the AI tools that are available. I'm not sure how much people are doing it for professional work. Of course, outside of work, I'm sure everybody's having fun. But I think genuinely, I think what my guidance to all young professionals would be that please, within the environments of what you do, embrace what AI can do. Even as organizations try to figure out, see, Girish, I will figure out for our company what's the right thing. But I think it'll be really nice if people can come up with ideas and say, hey, for my own job, here is what I can do better leveraging the power of AI.
Yeah. So even in the creator economy, like I talk to a lot of creators, and even like I use a lot of AI tools. So there are like so many good tools which are helping us in order to, let's say, generate an audio for a video, and we just have to insert that video link, and there's a tool which will give you like a good background music for that. So one of the challenges which we face is that copyright strike, which is done by someone else, and if we are not using an audio which is maybe like which is audio of someone else, so that person can just put a copyright strike. But AI ke through, there is no one who will put a copyright strike.
Exactly.
The second tool which is also like trending a lot is called Notebook LM of Google, and you can literally like paste any document, any link, ask it to summarize, and which is also true in ChatGPT Pro, I feel. And the best part is that even for creators, like repurposing content is a very important skill, where from a podcast, if you are taking out 30 seconds which can go viral on Instagram or YouTube Shorts, the tool gets you like the final video
Very
also.
nice, yeah.
So like I think a lot of AI tools are coming up in all the industries, and I think you're right. People should at least play around with them.
Definitely. Experimentation. And I'll tell you this whole agentic economy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, this is crazy. I was in the same room. A friend of mine, he's an investor in the whole AI ecosystem, and he came and he says, SaaS is dead, right? So I say, yeah, SaaS is dead if you say so, man. But his point is, SaaS is no longer software as a service, but service as a software. And the thesis really is that earlier, technology is what you're buying. Right? Going forward, people will buy services in the form of technology. So that's where this agentic flow comes in. I think, Girish, I challenge every specialized firm, law firms, tax, because we are in an amazing space. See, what is it? It's not that other technology companies in Silicon Valley can't create this. Of course they can create, and they are creating it. But what we have is the domain. If we can take the domain and make the R&D investments today, I think that is going to differentiate, who comes up, who is the next, winner in this market.
Yeah. And आपके हिसाब से, like, what are like some of the countries or places where the Indian CAs have opportunities? कि इंडिया में बैठ के यहाँ पर से भी like you can do work of people who are sitting outside India, and which are like some good countries to tap in जहाँ पर बहुत shortfall हो रहा है.
We love the world right now. Yeah. So I'll tell you, America. Absolutely amazing, because at least in our world, largely alignment of accounting standards. Our internal financial controls are there. Sarbanes-Oxley control system. Enterprise risk is the same everywhere. So I would say the US is kind of amazing. Saudi Arabia, we love Saudi Arabia, because the growth that's happening in that economy, their ability, and unlike the United States, Saudi Arabia also allows business travel in a much more easier manner. So we have 100 people in the ground in Saudi Arabia right now, from India. So we have 30 people locally based in Saudi Arabia, and then we have 100 people who effectively travel to the region to run kind of projects. Very similar. We love Abu Dhabi. I think there's amazing stuff kind of happening out there. I think if you look forward, even places like Canada, Europe, while a lot of people feel there is no growth in Europe, but remember there may be no business growth, but equally there aren't enough people, to your point, because the demographics are all kind of this thing. So again, going back to that discussion, I think if you are an Indian chartered accountant or an Indian finance tax professional, your ability to use your skills globally is becoming better and better, more and more.
So can you elaborate on Abu Dhabi, Canada, Europe?
Yeah. Amazing. So Abu Dhabi is growing, because what's happening in Abu Dhabi is there's a lot of new focus on risk management, on controls, on governance. They are trying to develop their stock market, because unlike for the business in that market is booming, but their stock exchanges and the capital markets have not evolved to the same level as places like India, right? So best practices in risk, in governance, in controls is a big area. A lot of people in Abu Dhabi are recruiting Indian professionals with secretarial experience, internal audit experience, and we are seeing a lot of that kind of happening. Same with Saudi Arabia, actually.
And Canada,
I think, is the simple point around just familiarity of the English language, and this is not new. I mean, it's been happening for a while. So we continue to see that Canadian companies outsourcing to India skills and experience, right? So yeah.
आपके हिसाब से कौन सी countries है जहाँ पर opportunities?
Same, I think I see a lot of people doing a lot of business in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, the whole Middle East actually, where the tax laws are changing, accounting, the IPO advisory stuff and all, lots of stuff happening through the Middle East. Singapore is also one place, I think, for Jamil, for our tax professionals is a very big haven actually, where you can actually, run regional offices and take care of global taxes. I see it happening in India also. Actually, the centers which are in India for US taxation and the whole accounting and the various elements which go in for companies which are not very big in size but mid-size. A lot of centers are getting formed by people out in India recruiting CAs. So India serving the world also is a very big opportunity which CAs have embraced in India. So I don't think you don't have to go there. For consulting projects, Jamil, maybe it takes you there. But for the tax and accounting, it can very well be done from here.
Yeah, the shared service market is booming, as we know. It's the one bright spot today from an Indian talent recruitment perspective. As we know, IT services companies are not recruiting at the pace that they were recruiting, but shared services are booming actually. And I think, I totally agree with what Girish is saying.
Just audience के लिए आप एक बार समझा सकते हो what exactly is shared services and अगर किसी को इसमें career बनाना है तो
जरूर. I think very simply, because talent does not exist outside or is kind of reducing. A lot of big companies, this is not new. For many years, Bank of America has been, for example, doing a lot of the work that they need to do on finance, risk, compliance, controls out of places like Gurgaon, places like Bangalore. So just technology mein India became an outsourcing hub in areas like finance, risk management, controls, taxation. Also, India has become a hub over time, right? But over the last several years, only the big companies used to do it. So HSBC would do it, Standard Chartered would do it, Unilever would do it, Shell would do it. But अभी सबने realize कर लिया है कि अगर वो लोग कर सकते हैं तो why can't a company in Austin, Texas do it? Why can't a company in Toronto do it? Why can't somebody else do it? So a lot of these people are setting up centers in India where they are recruiting people to do finance, risk, controls, tax, all of these activities from India. Just like technology became big, these areas are becoming big and they are recruiting talent very significantly. What you need is very strong functional talent again. And to my point, you need multicultural ability to deal with wherever your head office actually is, right? Of course, you do the work here, but you deal with bosses and other colleagues who are outside India.
And which is why the rise of global capability centers.
Same.
GCCs.
Yeah, you call them GCCs, you call them SS, Shared Service Centers, Center of Excellence. They are all the same.
Got it. And Gift City में काफी ये हो रहा है.
Gift City is also doing it, but this is honestly where the big talent. I'll tell you, Bangalore continues to rock. Hyderabad is amazing. Pune is amazing. There's amazing stuff happening in Gurgaon. Everywhere. I think across India, there are very strong. I think the other opportunity which will emerge in even the smaller cities. Where people will start, Baroda, many other places will come up. But that's a big opportunity.
Yeah. And why do you say so? So Baroda and all, like,
I'll tell you, issue क्या है यहाँ अभी हर कोई थी. अगर हम कोई काम अमेरिकन क्लाइंट के लिए ऑस्टिन टेक्सास के क्लाइंट के लिए दिल्ली से कर सकते हैं, तो ऑस्टिन टेक्सास के क्लाइंट से रायपुर से भी कर सकते हैं, राइट? अब चाहिए क्या? एंड अनलाइक हार्डकोर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, हमको कोई लैंड अप्रूवल नहीं चाहिए, हमको कोई मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के कोई लाइसेंसेस नहीं चाहिए, हमको तो खाली टैलेंट ही चाहिए. हिस्टोरिकली टैलेंट यूज्ड टू मूव फ्रॉम प्लेसेस वेयर दे वर टू प्लेसेस वेयर वी वर. I think over time we will move increasingly to places where talent is. Okay, so I'll give you a different example. We have 6 offices in India. We have Bombay, Bangalore, Gurgaon, Chennai, Pune, and Noida. We don't have Hyderabad, right? We recently recruited somebody, and a senior guy, And this guy basically wants to relocate to Bangalore because he said the opportunity is not this thing. I told him, dude, like you are here, अब हम Hyderabad खोल देंगे on the back of you. Because anyways, my market is outside India. How does it matter whether you're Hyderabad or Bangalore? And then I built talent pools around that. So my point is that I think we will start going in. And I know, for example, Girish, the work he does in the many small kind of towns and cities. So I think talent needs are everywhere. Talent doesn't need to come to us. We'll go to talent.
And India में रह के, like, do you think like in taxation specifically, कोई opportunities है for people in India who can, like, let's say maybe file income tax returns of people who are in US, etc.
Yeah, there are US tax centers in India who do only US tax work, and they're better than US professionals.
क्या होता है
And they
इसमें?
work as per US time zones.
Okay.
So there are centers in Chennai, south of India, 500 people only doing US tax returns. Data comes from the US, they process it here as per India tax things. There are checks and balances and they go. And Jamil, what I also saw is like now when we're recruiting people, we're getting people from Satara, Kolhapur, many people wanting to work from home, work 4-5 hours for us. The output is there. With proper controls and systems. It's actually creating opportunities across the sectors for women as well as men. And in M&A, it doesn't matter where you are. We can do M&A from wherever. Restructuring, everything is very, very fungible.
And how do you ensure if, let's say, people from tier 2 cities apply and they're working remotely, तो कैसे checks and controls कैसे ensure होते हैं?
I mean, absolutely, there are review mechanisms, there are login systems, there are different checks and balances. They are attached to a mentor or team leader, and they keep working.
Got it.
And actually, that's the future as I see. You may not need an office also everywhere. Office is a social need of Indians. It's not necessary.
And I assume you must be getting these talent at a subsidized cost as compared to getting talent in tier 1 cities.
It is cheaper and it is more loyal.
Oh, okay.
Because to them, the job means a lot. They're taking people to a better future. In Bombay, we are all seeing so much success all around us. Sometimes we don't appreciate what we have. Whereas in second tier cities, like in our offices which are Chennai and all, the attritions are very, very low. Hyderabad, we have a very big presence. Calcutta, we have a very big presence. I think we can do the work of the whole world in India, what I see, which is in English language. Where we struggle generally is where you have a French tax law, Italian.
Correct.
You can't do a diligence. Otherwise, I sit in India and do diligence for the rest of the world. For diligence deals at India cost. But there also, Jamil, what my worry is that we are on people dependent. That AI disruption is what is worrying me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Like how to use AI tools.
I know.
Talent arbitrage we are doing today.
Yeah.
But how to put the AI tools to...
Yeah. And Girish, as we said, I think that will only come through those companies that are willing to make the upfront investment in
Absolutely.
this. And I think but totally agree with you.
That is where we are struggling. That is where we are evolving, not struggling.
Yeah, makes sense. How big is the team at Transactions Pair?
We are around now 378.
Okay.
400, yeah.
Okay. And you said 550. 550, I don't know. Yeah. So, itni badi team, like, let's say you've built over the last few years, and even at KPMG, you said when you left, 2,400 people ka team tha, and when you would have left, it must be
3,500.
Yeah.
More.
So I'm sure, like, in your career, like, you've hired a lot of people, even in KPMG and even at your own companies. So what I want to ask is, kya specific set of questions aap पूछते हो whenever you hire, let's say, I want from both perspective. Like, even if you hire a junior person, when, let's say, you were at a previous organization, or even in your own companies, when you hire a senior person, what are some type of questions you would ask them, and kya answer expect karte ho? What is a good answer? What is a bad answer? Can you give some examples here?
You want me to go first? Yeah, I can go first. I think at the junior level, I think clearly what is important is पहले आपका ability कि आप अपने experience को कैसे communicate कर सकते हो. कभी सी CV say what they have to say, but the real trick is कि आप how do you bring your experience to life? First of all, we ask questions around what is your practical kind of experience. I think the second thing at Unicus, and I don't remember what we used to do at KPMG though, is we genuinely ask very interested about ethical dilemmas. So one of our favorite questions is, what ethical dilemma have you dealt with in the last 1 year and how did you overcome it? We love that actually.
Can you give an example of a good answer?
Yeah, so actually this is where the true character of a person comes in. A lot of people try to fake answers, and we love that actually. We can figure out how to fake it. I think in all of this, actually the best answer is an honest answer. Because what we are not, see, nobody can pass value judgment ke kya right answer. Because who has the thing to go to L7 to figure out ke right answer kya hai? What we are looking for there is honesty and self-awareness in terms of audits. Actually, that's really the trick. The answer is not the right answer, but how you gave the answer for us is important. I think the third question our team's going to dig in very heavily is on a practical challenge you faced in the last 1 year and how you dealt with it. See, they're all real issues. You can't fake this. So what we try to bring in is that what kind of experience both functionally people have gone through, what kind of emotional, integrity type of experience people have gone through, and what kind of, can they deal with adversity actually. Those are the things that we kind of look for. Just one thing before Girish comes in, I'll say, I used to say, and I've said this publicly, one of the things that used to matter a lot some time ago was IQs. And then the world got intelligent and said IQs are not enough, EQs are important. Actually, we believe that in addition to that, we call AQ, adversity quotient. How much adversity have you dealt with, and how do you come out of that adversity? Because going back to that point on agility and resilience, if you have that, you fit in. And I'll just make one more comment. At the senior level, actually, what we look for is, can you really, because as I said, for us, 500 or 550 people have come from Big Four. Super. Can you actually make that change? Or are you that guy? Can you be a Sagar Lakhani who will search for an office? Or are you somebody who's looking for somebody who will find you an office? We don't want the second guy, actually. Yeah. Particularly, we don't want him in a new place where we're starting. We want somebody to go and do all of this for us, actually.
So you wouldn't prefer someone who delegates a lot, is that?
Yeah, I think it depends on what we tell. So my leader in Saudi Arabia is a super senior guy from Ernst & Young, Saad Al Katlan. Okay, I had a discussion with him yesterday. Saad said that when he came in, he did not realize how much of stuff he will have to do. But what he has learned. So again, from our perspective, it doesn't matter what you came in with, but are you going to, when the job requires you to roll up your sleeves, are you willing to roll up your sleeves actually? That's really what we're looking for.
Got it.
Yeah.
I think more or less the same, but I think what also we focus on is the culture, because we have built a particular culture and we want that to be paramount. So we don't want disruptors of our culture, however brilliant they are. So our culture is empathy, our culture is growing together, our culture is day one startup, like it's your firm, you will take care of your clients, client first, integrity, honesty. I think there are situations wherein we would tell a client, don't do this because it's not good for you, though it may not mean good business for us. So paramount to all this is those cultural aspects. We don't want to compromise for anything. So, but we come across good people, and we have found the right people, and we should not be afraid to correct also if somebody bad comes on board, because culture cannot go wrong. We don't want to be a big organizational ills. We want to be a everyday startup.
So इसमें let's say if you are taking an interview of someone and आप जब किसी को interview कर रहे हैं तो उसमें आप ऐसे कोई 3-4 सवाल हो गए, if you can give us live example, क्या पूछोगे, क्या expect करोगे, that will be like very helpful for anyone who wants to apply even in your companies and even in different companies.
Actually, typically I would start with a background. How has he done his education? How has he failed, recovered? What is the struggle he's gone through to reach where he has reached? Then I would also understand the family background. According to me, the family background plays a very important role in the way the person is culturally groomed. Then, of course, on the skill part of it, you would always test him for his skills. How much does he know? And is he updated? Does he understand the new technologies? Understand the new stuff? Very important, because at lower levels, functional knowledge is very, very important. You can't do it without it. Then I would actually go down to the team playing and the ability to deal with peers, the ecosystem. Is he a good team player? especially if he's coming as a manager, as to what are the kind of teams he's led, what are his experiences, and we don't want people who can't groom people, because our business is all about, as you move up, you keep grooming people, you pass on your knowledge. And then I would go to ethics, integrity. Some people just too eager on stock markets make me nervous. Some people who make quick money also make me nervous, means there could be something wrong happening. Really, and search for those threads where I, bounce off my values, which is team play, culture, helping others, working together, and then at the end of it come to a longevity stuff also. People who say, oh, I'm rushed because I have 3 Big 4 offers. We don't want them. Because he will go away one day. So what's the point? So people who really want to join us and who actually want to do this path. And not just as a first job and not just hopping onto something.
Yeah.
So I would be okay if out of 100 people we get, we recruit only 10. No problem. But we are selective about it. And I would say on LinkedIn, Jamil, I don't know how it's with you, I would at least get 8 to 10 leads, CVs a day.
A day?
Yeah. We have spent not a single rupee in hiring people.
Yeah.
Okay. We have not hired any consultant to hire people across geographies. And Jamil, you're right. I mean, when I think all our offices started because we got the right person there. So we have not had a strategy that, okay, our next office is here. We got the right person, we trusted him, we built around him. So, and we've not spent a single rupee on any person hired in our office.
Very impressive, yeah.
Not a single rupee. And now also the flow is as much as we want to take.
Yeah, I would just say on talent, I think again, the amount of pull we're getting is crazy actually. And I think one thing that I'd like to build on what Girish said, what makes us very nervous is this whole job hopping business actually. And I'll tell you very funny, I was interviewing for a CFO and this guy tells me he's changed 7 jobs. And then the funny part is he tells me, he says, now I want to settle down for the next 3 years before I do something. I said, dude, like, so I think, I just want to, from my perspective, nobody expects, unlike the past, we did 20 plus years. I don't think that's game. But honestly, if we don't get that feeling, why would we invest in somebody? And if our culture, unlike a factory tries to take people, get the output out of them and move on. If what Girish is doing, we are doing is actually about grooming talent. Why would we groom somebody for 3 years and then lose them to someone else actually? So that longevity point, very important point.
So would you both prefer resumes that will have stability in terms of the number of organizations they have worked versus like someone who has worked in 8-9 different organizations?
Yeah, at least I would actually. We actually watch that. All our kind of decision that has a big factor. Look, now there can be genuine cases where that happens, but we honestly like people who have done 2-3 changes rather than 8-9 changes.
Okay. Would it be the same for you?
I think more or less same. I would be very scared to hire somebody who has 6 job changes in his CV. But at the same time, sometimes, there is a story behind those 6 changes also. Like sometimes people really shift because they are, husbands have shifted in case of women, or some I would give the benefit of doubt, but if it's just because it's a hobby to shift, or it's the way of working that every 2 years I have to shift, I would not hire them.
Got it.
But there are some cases I've come across where, Jamil, there are genuine cases where circumstances make them what they are, which is okay.
But ये बहुत problem है, I tell you, ये particularly, I really feel that, and I used to experience this more at KPMG than I experienced at Unicus. At KPMG, I used to be amazed at the amounts for which people change jobs actually. For like a lakh year, thing here, and it doesn't pay. I'll tell you, it doesn't pay. In the medium run, forget, as Keen said, long run we are all dead. But medium term maybe, कहाँ भाग फिर के अब वहीं पहुंच जाओगे. If you're in the same organization, and what you would have lost out is you would have lost out on building goodwill anywhere. Because 5 organization अगर आप जाओगे तो कहाँ goodwill बनाया आपने, किसके साथ goodwill बनाया, right? कहाँ आपको stability of experience kind of मिला. So I think this point about not jumping jobs for the sake of jumping, but only if you believe that you are in the wrong place. You're not learning enough. You don't see a career growth ahead of you, right? Versus just somebody offering you 10-20% more. Like I said, I used to see that a lot more in my previous organization, and I would discourage people from doing it actually.
And what's the most memorable interview experience that you guys recall from your interviewing journey? ऐसा कोई experience है जहाँ पर you maybe found someone very weird candidate या someone who was very impressive? ऐसा कोई है?
No, I have, I have had funny ones also. I've had really impressive ones as well. I'll tell you, very recently, we did an interview with a lady. She's in San Diego in the US, and very impressive. And but we were meeting many people. What I really liked about her, she actually said, "We have a few more minutes." She didn't say, "I have a question for you," or that normal stuff. She said, "Can I tell you something about your website which is not really good?" That take gumption, man. And she actually had 5 super constructive points. This was a digital marketing kind of talent, and on point in terms of what we could do and why. I just love the energy that people like that bring in, because they've genuinely done their work. They're not doing it to prove a point. They're not doing it to show off. So I really think, what you should think about it in any interview. It may just be about your experience, but if there is one or two things which is a little bit different from what somebody has done, without obviously coming out as being silly, so that was very, very impressive for me.
Anything in your experience?
In my experience, the best selection I did in my life, best selection, I think by far the best, was my first person in Transaction Square. So my first person in Transaction Square was a person who just finished his BBM. He was from South Bombay College, 20 years of age. I got introduced to him that he wants to look for a job. I didn't know that time I was leaving. I was the first person to be out of the firm, and I hired him for 4 lakhs at that time. And we both entered WeWork on the same day. So like, I chose WeWork because I was leaving a 2,400 people team, completely drained, going to be a person on the ground, because you're leaving so much. WeWork, when you sit, then the whole 2,400 people are in WeWork.
Good point.
So we had a 4 people cabin, and he and me started together. He came 1 hour before me, and he started that 4-seater, and I joined after 1 hour. He was bubbling and, let's do this, let's launch like this. He was so agile, Jamil.
Yeah.
He could actually make anything happen.
Yeah.
Let's start a website, let's start a domain, whether it should be transactionsquare.com or transactionsquare.in. Everything he did for me, his youth and his energy and his figuring out stuff really made Transaction Square. And till now we are figuring out. I think that was the best hire I did. And that was a youth who I didn't know. I mean, his name is Fahad Dosani. Like my son today, actually. Equal to my son. I think Girish Vanvari, Fahad Dosani. That was the best hire I did. Wow. So I think agility and the ability to figure out, he didn't come up that I have to be with a big firm, IT, I have to call up the IT department. No. IT means I have to figure out.
Yeah.
You need this kind of people. This bulb is not working, I will stand up and change it. Office, let's go and register together. So there was no, your first office also you would have registered it yourself.
Correct.
Who will go on your behalf? Like in KPMG, we had admin and all who was very deep, who could do everything on their own.
I find this very funny, again, just on recruitment, same point, is actually in a lot of big companies when you work, even secretaries, if you tell your EA that you got to get this done, EAs are used to calling somebody else to say, get this done. Okay. Now we have nobody to call. Everybody got to do this thing. So I think that attribute also is a very interesting attribute in terms of really, to the point, can you get things done versus calling somebody or, expecting somebody to do things.
Yeah. And in your interview, you remember, like when you interviewed him, like what did he say, or what were the questions you asked him, or what were his answers that made you feel like he's the one?
He got to know my background, and of course I had to confide in him that I was starting on my own. He just told me that, can I build this with you? I think that just swung it. because he didn't say how far will you go. He didn't try and test my dream. He just said, "Want to build it with you."
Wow.
Very
So
nice.
then it was a different ballgame altogether. I think even you would have found people in your journey who are building it with you.
Super.
It's not a job for them.
Correct.
It's like it's their firm as much as it is ours. So that is it.
That's very impressive. And I think that ability to figure out things, or maybe having that entrepreneurial mindset, even if you're doing a job, I think that is very underrated and very important.
But you take this, no? We could have cancelled this.
Yeah.
This venue changed because of a power shortage. We would have cancelled this. We could have had so many excuses not to do this. It's easy, you'd have just called us. We would have been so relieved because 3 hours got free in our calendar. Because we have done, I'm sure our ideas are budging with things which we can just, but we made it happen, right? Because you figured it out, you came here, this is life.
Yeah, this is life.
Yeah. Maybe if I would have rescheduled, then I don't know kab hota hai wapas.
Exactly.
But that's it would take a lot of time to.
Now you put that in our shoes. We need these kind of people, right?
Yeah.
Because for us, we want to move forward. We don't want to.
So if I apply in your companies, I'm getting a job.
You are. You'll do well. You'll do well.
You will do surely well.
No, I'm just kidding. But thank you so much for that. It means a lot. But just like since we are also addressing a lot of young professionals, Jamil sir, like specifically in your entire journey, do you remember an example of a young team member who early on impressed you with some of the other skills, and what were the traits, so that people who are watching this, they also know like how to perform in their careers?
Yeah. I think I have always been, and there have been many. I have always been impressed by people who deliver on their commitments. I think that is very important, because as a manager, what you look for is that if somebody says they will do something, do they actually deliver or not, right? So that ability, and many people have impressed me with that, and they've all grown with me over time at KPMG, at Unicus. The second thing is the willingness to assume additional responsibilities. See, when you go to somebody and you want them to do something, there are two types of people, okay? There are some who will basically treat it as a burden, and there are others who will embrace that. Now how they then get it done is up to them, right? And this need not be just senior people, even at the junior level, actually. So I have always been impressed, and there have been many people actually who have impressed me with their ability to deliver consistently and their ability to take additional responsibilities without cribbing about it, etc. I say this, there's this very, very commonly used, that with great power comes great responsibility. I've actually always said with great responsibility comes great power. Because you will realize the more responsibility you take as a professional, the more you grow. Because others are not doing it around you. That becomes a competitive advantage for you, actually. Yeah.
And specifically, I asked this to you because now you became the youngest partner of KPMG when you were just 28. So that time also, a lot of responsibilities would be given to you. Correct. And which is why you say that, okay, when you are given responsibilities, like there's a lot of power that comes.
Exactly.
I think that is
exactly. I think it's not, look, honestly, there were people equally bright. There were people brighter, smarter, as hardworking. But how do you win that trust of people to give you more and more and more? I'll tell you this really funny story. My mentor, I had many good mentors, but one of my closest mentors is a leader called Bala Swaminathan. He lives in Singapore now. And I remember Bala effectively called me. We'd worked on ICICIs together for the US listing of ICICI. And he called me one day and he said, Jamil, abhi apne ko jaane ka hai, Bangalore jaane ka hai. तो ऐसा हम जाइए बैंगलोर जाने का कितने दिन के लिए नहीं अपने को जाने का है मतलब मूव टू बैंगलोर एंड आई सेड अच्छा कभी फ्लाई करेंगे बाला बोले परसों कर सकते हैं एंड वी फ्लू एंड आई मूव टू बैंगलोर फॉर 9 years on the back of that one call actually. Wow. And there were 3 others who did that actually from different parts, and that gave you the ability. So I think when you have that risk, it's not that people will ask you also for silly stuff. People will also assess. When I ask something of somebody, I'm also making my mind, is that person capable? Am I being fair, not fair? But if I have reached that decision, then it's reciprocal on that person to say, what does it mean for their growth? That's how I grew. And that's how, people have grown with us along the way.
How was that entire experience for you when you got to know at 28 you're being made the partner of KPMG? Can you share that story? What happened exactly?
Oh, it was fascinating, actually. I was, in fact, this came up in some other discussion. I think I was the only person who made a partner in a Big Four without becoming a director.
Oh,
I didn't become a director.
It was like a double promotion.
Yeah. So actually, so what in some of this? So frankly, I think I did not feel a very big change because the responsibility that were given to me by my mentors were superb. I had an amazing American mentor, a guy called Albert Abudi, who's now in New York. So what happens is when you work with people like those, the responsibilities make you grow. Of course, you have that big kick about saying like you became partner and all. But one thing that I always again highlight is, if you ask me which year I became partner, I don't remember now actually. It seemed to be the most important thing in life at that point in time. But then you realize that's not important. The year you got married, you'll always remember, or you have to remember. If you don't, then you'll always remember. When you get your child, you'll always remember. When you graduated, you'll always remember. I genuinely struggle to remember when I made kind of partner. And the reason I say this is not to belittle anything, but to say all of this is just milestones in life. And we make them super critical, but they're just kind of journeys of life, actually.
Yeah. I'll ask you a trick question. Were there people who were senior than you who got jealous because you were made a partner?
Absolutely. Many. And it was not easy. And I'll tell you what, I think what I am super kind of, fortunate is there were people who backed me at that stage and said, no, this person deserves to be a partner at this age. And in this thing, though there are 5 others who are good and who expect it to kind of happen. And, it is not easy. And in some of those cases, my relationship never mended with those people because they just took it just too personally to say, why were we not kind of this thing? But yeah, that's life.
Yeah. Girish, like one question to you. So a lot of people also believe in the concept of networking and they want to start networking right from an early age so that they can have like a good career, etc. But we spoke and we touched upon this aspect in the past about the KPMG thing which we mentioned. But आपके हिसाब से एक अगर कोई 20 to 23 year old है जो ये देख रहा है तो how important is it for that person to network with right people right now and how can one start that?
So I would say there's nothing right or wrong in it. So if I have to look at myself, I have in my career now I've been in this for the last 35 years. I've never hosted a client in my home for dinner. Never had a client dinner. I would have never gone for a client wedding. Never. I would have never gone for a client celebration. As a person, I have not networked at all. I haven't had a meal with him also. I don't think we both have had a meal together, though we know each other very well.
Correct.
We've had leaving the partner meet when we would just have a plate together. We haven't had a meal together. So that is what I have been, but I've done my work well. One work has got to another work and the business has grown, people have grown. I have other softer way of engaging with my ecosystem, which endears me to them and endears them to me. That's how it has been built. But that's one way. Whereas when I see now Jay Vanvari doing it, absolutely effective. He will go for cricket matches. He will go for comedy shows. He will work very hard. In between, he had a fracture in his hand. When I went to the hospital, there were 15 people from office waiting to see how he's feeling. And he's doing very well. He's networking, he's doing well. So I don't know what is right or wrong. But certainly, if you like networking, you should, because it makes you learn so much. I was not made that way. But I didn't see that to be a hindrance at all to where I reach. As an entrepreneur also, I don't feel that to be an hindrance. I have great relationships with people, but I don't, I'm confined to myself. And I see my son and my daughter doing it very well. They're opposite of me. They're building good bonds, good networks. So nothing is right or wrong.
Anything on that?
Yeah, no, I think the bottom line is you have to play to your strength. You have to be natural. I'll tell you where networking doesn't work. Networking doesn't work where you're artificial. Actually, I find that super irritating when people try to network with me with no content, with no relevance, no context, right? So I think it's good to the extent where if you feel you have something relevant to either learn or contribute, and you are there, because the networking is also not just about you making an impact. It's also about you absorbing things. You just being there, standing in a conversation, listening to different people kind of adds to your intellectual kind of capability and experience as well, right? So yeah, and I agree with Girish. I have seen some amazingly successful introverted people, and I have seen some amazingly failed extroverted people. So I don't think there's a right answer here. My only kind of suggestion to young people would be get a diverse set of experiences. See, again, we were fortunate. We came from a place where we go those experiences in our work environment because we were Anderson, we were KPMG, da da da. But I think if you are not in a place like that, where you're working in a credible place, but you want a broad set of experiences, your chance of getting that experience is to network and mix around with people in other this thing. Actually.
Yeah.
And one more thing I learned, Jamil, which is for what I do two things. M&A restructuring and the accounting firm we run, and family offices. In family offices, we do family charters, wills, settlements in family, shareholders agreement. So, Jamil, before IPO, just getting all the divorces also, children born out of not marriage. A lot of hairy stuff, Jamil.
Yeah.
What I realized that by not being a networking person, I'm a darling for the second business.
Very good. Yeah.
Because suppose if you have a problem, you will not go to somebody who is seen in too many parties, because you want it to be discreet. You want it to be not spoken about. Name dropping to say I work for this, work for that, never wins you clients. Because you may drop a competitor's name. Dynamics between people may be very bad. You don't know. So I think a discreet individual in consulting is a recipe for big success. Because we're not in show business. We are solving very complicated, in my business, because my business is very different from your business.
Of course. No.
Where I'm more intimate with my clients.
Yeah.
In that case, being an introvert is actually a very big, it's working for me.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be seen in weddings where 5 people have told me their most intimate problems. They'll start getting nervous.
Okay.
They'll start getting nervous that I may vomit their problems out to somebody. It's all confidential in my stomach. So it's working for me this way.
I'll just say for a young professional, just coming back to your point, Kushal, I would strongly recommend that people also connect with people on LinkedIn. The number of recruitments we've done, again, to the point Girish mentioned, I've hired partners on LinkedIn. Partners, Big Four, in this room. A guy kind of wrote to me and said, I am a partner from EY. I'm leaving to join company X, but I want to meet you once, based in Delhi. And I said, yeah, okay, on LinkedIn. I don't know this guy. Dude came in. I spent an hour with him. I liked him. I told my guys, I said, I like this guy. Today, he's a partner with us, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think some of this is, and there are many people we have recruited by people just reaching out on LinkedIn to people. Of course, because what that does, see, how will you get to a Jamil Khatri, Girish Vanvari, otherwise, right? Effectively, and if you frame your thing well, we are professional enough to read and respond, right? Because we also know this is our strength. If you don't reach out at all, how will we even know you exist in this whole scheme of things? So I would recommend find your own niche. Don't try to hard sell, but at least at a younger level, Girish, in terms of how people in today's world would be this thing. So.
And let's say if someone who's watching this wants to reach out to both of you. So LinkedIn, but then what is an example of a good reach out? Like what will you see the way he has reached out? Like what are some
I tell you what works for me. And this is like standard operating procedure is what is your relevance of your reach out? I hate people who say hi. Okay, shit. Yeah. It doesn't work for me. But look, come straight on to say like, look, this is my experience. This is what I've done. I would like to explore. Or there are many people, who reach out to me and say, I'm doing this in this particular area. I believe that, we could do something together out here. So I think something which is structured, not very long, and basically stuff is, if you don't express your purpose, why are you reaching out? Honestly, I don't think any of us has time to casually chat on kind of LinkedIn, etc.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, in 100% of the cases, somebody from our team has reached out and closed the loop to say this works, this doesn't work.
Oh.
Yeah, we are super this thing. My chief people officer and her team are like total rock stars. And we also, our biggest asset in India is our ability to recruit without spending on kind of consultants. Of course, outside India is very different for us in terms of the markets we operate in. So yeah.
Do you also deal with celebrity clients without naming them, of course?
Yeah, we have cricket stars. We have TV actors, big stars. Yes, we have a fair bit of them.
Yeah.
And how's the experience? Is it like celebrities have tantrums zyada hai, etc., or how does that
No,
work?
I think they depend on you. You become their protector.
Okay.
Because they look up to you for your domain, and you have a bigger responsibility. Because if I'm dealing with a corporate, typically the corporate team also is a protector. In these cases, you're a total protector in the family office. So the responsibility is
Very good.
far more, and the intimacy is far more. They're also human beings, and I see the bigger the person is, the more empathy they have, the more understanding they have. It's a very good relationship you nurture. You actually become mentors to many of them.
Yeah.
In various aspects of life.
And just talking about mentors, so one of the mentors that you mentioned is Mr. Deepak Parekh, HDFC person. And what have you learned from him, or any conversations, interaction that you remember? What has he taught you?
Oh, Deepak has taught a lot to the world. And I mean, he's the most amazing kind of a professional. So I think 2 or 3 things about Deepak is, first of all, his energy, man. Like, it's crazy in terms of his ability to just keep on doing things, keep new things. I've always been inspired by that. His humility. So I remember he inaugurated our office, this
wow.
office. Yeah, Deepak came. And it's funny because, I'm one of the few people who calls him Deepak, and I've always called him Deepak. And he is, and sometimes people get conscious, and his thing is, no, Jamil makes me feel younger, right? So I think his ability to, with humility, the sharpness, the interest that he takes in different things, and how he connects the dots between different people is amazing. Also, a good mentor is not somebody who will keep checking on you, but when you want support, right, will be willing to meet you, no agenda, and kind of share thoughts and ideas. So I mean, I can go on and on about Deepak, but he's an inspiration.
But the question is, how do you develop these kind of relationships, especially with an industry stalwart who is so successful like Mr. Deepak Parekh?
Yeah.
So today, if someone wants to reach out, it's very difficult for them to
course.
get a meeting with them. But someone like who wants to find a mentor like him, how do you advise? Like, let's take an example of me. Okay, if I want to, let's say, have him as a mentor, what would you advise me? What should I do? How to do?
Very good question. There are 2 ways, in which mentorships, 3 ways actually, I'd say mentorships are created. I think in my experience, I've got like really, one is people you work with. First of all, you realize in your industry area itself, right? You may decide that, and there are many kind of mentees I have who don't work at KPMG or Unicus, but effectively because we are in the same profession, they tap into my knowledge and experience. And I used to do the same thing even earlier. I was in KPMG, but there were great leaders elsewhere who I would do. So that's one part. I think the second level of mentorship is when you serve somebody as a service provider, right? So let's say how my thing would happen is, when I used to serve Deepak, I would serve Adi Godrej, I would serve Mr. Premji. Along the way, then you effectively, if you do good and if they like what you do and they connect with you and they have empathy for you, you then have the ability to effectively ask them, and that's how kind of relationships go. I think the third, which is the most extreme form of mentorship request I've seen, is somebody reached out to me from very, very large private equity and said, I'm relocating from Canada to India, and can I request for a meeting because I want to effectively tap into this thing. And he was a credible guy. And his content, of course, one looks up who this person is. And that was impactful. And I met him and I loved the guy. And it seemed he had the same way reached out to Deepak and a bunch of others, and everybody gave him a meeting actually. Right? Now, effectively, see, we also have our own channels and stuff as well. So we won't give this to everybody. But I think the point really is, if you believe in yourself, if you believe you can contribute to a conversation, genuinely want to learn from somebody, maybe at the end of that first meeting, nothing will come about, but maybe at the end of it, something will kind of spark and something will kind of flow forward. But I think my advice to people would be, instead of going out for those moonshots, first within your network itself, think about people who you interact with, who would be willing to be mentors, and how do you seek those out actually?
Right.
You know?
Any specific mentors you have in your journey? Who helped you
Many for different aspects. So I would not pinpoint this guy as a mentor or something. For HR, somebody has been my mentor. For vision, somebody has been my mentor. And I think what is important, like the question you're saying is, how do I get into this club? How does Deepak, Parekh start mentoring me?
Yeah.
So very important question. And what I feel is that there are moments of truth which you reach with somebody in his life. So like I may get somebody out of trouble. I may get a successful IPO done for somebody. I may do get a big deal or a settlement done for somebody. And in that interaction, the moments of truth become so profound. Then genuine friendships and mentorship comes. Like his moment of truth with Deepak would have come on those big stuff you did, wherein he saw you going beyond achieving something for him. And then he decides to say, no, this guy, I owe it back to him to take him to a better future. So I think till that moment of truth does not come, you cannot go and say, I want to be mentored by you. It doesn't work. Correct. So all these fleeting things I get, I want to be mentored by you. I may do a 1 hour conversation out of grace. But after that, it just dies because I won't have time every day. But there are people who moments of truth have got, like say, we have so many people who we made partners, Jamil, who we were in interviews, who were on panels together.
Correct.
Those people today also, if they move to another layer, they will just, text you and tell you, you been my first mentor because you were in my panel when I became a director. So many people, or I'm retiring from KPMG today. In my tax practice, 50% of the people were senior to me. But we carried them through, we respected them, we heard them. People just want respect. So when they're retiring, they all will come to you. Mentorship is moments of truth have to come. Otherwise, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, fair. And just wanted to touch upon the aspects of the work profile and the kind of work that both of you are doing at your company. So this is a question from the standpoint that I want to make people understand that what are all the possible avenues available for, let's say, a young CA who wants to make a career. So can you explain आपके organizations में क्या-क्या चीज़, like you said M&A tax, family office, and like in detail, like क्या-क्या चीज़ें होगी आपके organizations में, and in brief 2 minutes each or maybe 2-3 minutes each, what exactly is the work profile, या तो क्या सीखने मिलेगा हर एक profile में. I think that'll be like a very good thing for everyone to understand.
I think for us, there are 4 businesses. The first is everything around accounting advisory. तो वहाँ requirement है chartered accountants का, and at all levels, people who know how to apply and consult and give advice to clients के किस चीज़ का accounting कैसे होना चाहिए. अगर कोई कंपनी IPO के लिए प्रिपेयर कर रही है तो कैसे प्रिपेयर करना चाहिए, क्या रिक्वायरमेंट है, सेबी की DRHP रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है, ऑडिटर के साथ काम करके कैसे प्रिपरेशंस काइंड ऑफ करना है, फाइनेंस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कैसे पॉलिसी प्रोसीजर्स वगैरह बनाना है. तो दैट इज द फर्स्ट बिजनेस दैट वी डू, व्हिच इज द फंक्शन दैट इज चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स एंड दैट काइंड ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस दैट कम्स इन देयर, राइट. द सेकंड बिजनेस फॉर अस इज रिस्क कंसल्टिंग, जहाँ सेम चीज इन रिस्क डिपार्टमेंट में तो कैसे पॉलिसी प्रोसीजर्स बनानी है, इंटरनल कंट्रोल्स कैसे बनाने हैं. तो लेट्स से इन अ कंपनी अगर बिजनेस जैसे चलता है, व्हाट आर द डिफरेंट कंट्रोल्स दैट कंपनीज पुट इन. So again, typically these are people who are chartered accountants who effectively operate in this area, and then there are other things.
So controls का क्या example होगा?
So control का, let's say for example कोई company है कि अगर आपको let's say if you want to set up purchasing, right? Purchase के process में कहाँ आपको, how do you get tenders for purchases, how do you get approval process, who should approve, who should not approve. तो उसका सारा एक पूरा framework होता है. डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ फ्रेमवर्क होता है, इसको कोसो फ्रेमवर्क बोलते हैं. उस हिसाब से ये होता है. बट दैट इज चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट जनरली और इंटरनल ऑडिटर्स, पीपल हु आर ट्रेन्ड टू बी इंटरनल ऑडिटर, दे फॉल इनटू दिस कैटेगरी. दैट्स द सेकंड बिजनेस. Third business is our sustainability business, where typically it's not chartered accountants who are there. These are more people who've done climate science work, sustainability related, social sciences kind of work. And fourth business for us is the technology consulting work. ना उस बिजनेस में दो तरह के लोग हम लोग होते हैं. एक तो कंप्यूटर साइंस ग्रेजुएट्स आते हैं जो हार्डकोर टेक्नोलॉजी काइंड ऑफ बैकग्राउंड से आते हैं, और वहाँ भी हम लोग फंक्शनल चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स लेते हैं. तो लेते हैं अगर कोई ERP इम्प्लीमेंटेशन का प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है, किसी को SAP लगाना है, किसी को Oracle वांट टू इम्प्लीमेंट, ऑफ कोर्स द टेकी विल डू द थिंग, बट SAP का फायदा फाइनेंस डिपार्टमेंट को क्या होगा? हाउ शुड चार्ट ऑफ अकाउंट्स बी डिजाइन? वहाँ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट लोग फंक्शनल एक्सपीरियंस लाते हैं. तो those are the 4 areas and which we kind of end up recruiting a lot of people. Actually.
So just quick question on the fourth area which you said. तो वहाँ पे like all the skills like SAP का knowledge होना चाहिए and all that would be required.
But SAP का technical knowledge जरूरत नहीं है. In the sense you don't have to be a coder. But SAP की functionalities क्या है? कि SAP में consolidation का module कैसे चलता है? Right? तो basically this is called the business lens of a technology this thing. So हर टेक्नोलॉजी में एक तो टेक्नोलॉजी एंगल होता है, बट हाउ शुड टेक्नोलॉजी वर्क फॉर द बिजनेस इटसेल्फ? क्या बिजनेस सॉल्विंग होगा, राइट? is the skill and experience we look for. We train a lot of people in this. ये कोई ट्रेनिंग वेनिंग से नहीं आता है. ये we take people from our first business and our second business and put them in the fourth business actually as well. अगर किसी ने फाइनेंस डिपार्टमेंट के साथ काम किया है, उसको पता है कि कंट्रोलर का या CFO का क्या प्रॉब्लम्स है. अब वो टेक्नोलॉजी इम्प्लीमेंट होता है, हम यहाँ से लेके उसको वहाँ डाल देते हैं एक्चुअली, एंड दैट्स हाउ वी काइंड ऑफ क्रिएट द पूल ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस.
Got it. Very interesting. Girish sir.
See, as far as Transaction Square is concerned, as the name goes, Transaction Square, it started as a boutique M&A restructuring firm. So we do everything in a deal, leaving deal making. So we don't do corporate finance, but anything which supports deal making, which is valuations, diligences, SPA negotiations, carrying a restructuring or a deal through, getting all the approvals, all accounting, tax, regulatory implications, everything which makes a deal happen. And in that traditional setup of ours, we have all accounting advice, assessments also we do of clients. We do all kinds of compliances also, which a traditional accounting and tax firm would do. But our sweet spot is the M&A restructuring. We would do in a year around 125 to 130 transactions, which we would support, 2 a week actually.
Wow.
And then what happened is we did IPOs, we did OFSs, people sold their businesses, they got the money, they set up family offices. Then the family office business came as an offshoot of this whole business. The second business became family office. We work with the biggest and the largest families in this country. We do all kinds of work for them, which is gift city बनाए नहीं बनाए, UK shift होए नहीं होए, घर दुबई में लेवे नहीं लेवे. What are the issues, compliances of those people, RBI issues, SEBI compliances, different dimensions of family offices, divorces, family charters, will, trust, succession planning, institutionalization of companies, all that stuff which we do. So these are not the traditional CA areas, but we get a lot of people for both these areas, and it's real good fun. You learn so much every day.
Can you spend some more time on M&A restructuring when you say valuation, diligence, deal making? क्या exactly होता है? And you said that corporate finance you don't do. What exactly is corporate finance? So
corporate finance is searching a buyer, searching an investor. People come to us when they have searched a buyer or searched an investor.
So you're not an investment bank, basically.
We are not an investment bank. We support investment banks. So we get a lot of work from a Kotak, JM, Motilal, who refer work to us. Similarly, in family offices, we don't do wealth at all. So we don't do what 361 does. यहाँ पैसा डालो या Kotak से यहाँ पैसा डालो. पर कैसे पैसा डालने हैं, उसका क्या इम्पैक्ट है, डाल सकते हैं कि नहीं, लॉ परमिट करते हैं कि नहीं, वो सब हम करते हैं. So which is a domain which is very, very unique. There's nobody in our domain. Nobody looks at it comprehensively the way we do. And what we do is very intimate. For somebody to come and say, oh, I have X crores, I want to invest in a safe manner, in a right manner. He will not go and talk to a big four. Yeah. He won't open all his secrets to a big four. He'll open to us. So very interesting. Anybody who comes, I think his learning curve is very high.
And what do you mean by diligence and all these things? क्या होता है
Diligence
उसमें?
is a financial diligence, tax diligence, or any acquisition leads to a diligence. Are the accounts proper? We prepare people for diligence. We do vendor diligence also. We regularize people for IPO, because when you're unlisted, you're in a chaotic manner. You'll have 8-9 companies. How do you get them together? How do you take core out of the companies? How do you keep non-core separate? You may have land, treasury. How do you segregate all that? We do.
Got it.
So before IPO, a lot of work happens actually.
Yeah.
IPO just the end game.
Yeah.
Like, see, this internalization you are seeing, that people reverse merging into India. We're working on that. People wanting to list overseas, we work on that. So different dimensions of the same story.
Got it. Very unconventional paths and career options for CAs out there as well.
But that's the future, I think.
Yeah.
It's fun because you're interacting with the best.
Yeah.
I think it's a proper intellectual job and like intellectual stimulation.
And इसमें क्या होता है ना, इसमें in a lot of these cases, while the functional knowledge is important, actually the life skills are more important. Again, I will say this: the number of people you've taken and seeded from one business to the other, because of course baseline एक चाहिए, but उसके बाद क्या करना है? If you're a good chartered accountant, just to take Girish's kind of this thing, you may not understand the intricacies of FEMA structure for the first 6 months, but in the 7th month you're sharp, you'll get it actually. And that is where the platform helps you to get that experience and learn. Right? But if you're somebody who doesn't want to learn, then of course you won't go anywhere.
Yeah. And both of you took an entrepreneurial plunge at a latter stage of your career. But would you advise that someone who is young should like do a job for the first few years and then take an entrepreneurial plunge? Or ठीक है, अगर कुछ entrepreneurial bug है तो starting से ही शुरू कर दो and then figure out कर लो over the way. क्या करना है?
तुमको solid contrarian answers मिलेंगे. Why don't you go first?
See, I think for professional services, to plunge in early stage of your career is not possible, because you have to plunge with experience and you have to plunge with the ecosystem accepting you for what you're good at. So if I had plunged at say 25, I have no experience, neither do I have the market gravitas to build a firm. You can plunge only when you have experience, and you can plunge only when you have the market gravitas in professional service firm. In other entrepreneurship, depends upon what stage you are, like the consumer techs and the unicorns which are getting built. I plunged when I was at 45 for the reasons which were different. But should I have plunged 5-6 years earlier? I think I should have plunged when I got replaced as an M&A leader. Then I would have been 7-8 years ahead of the curve. So I would have been a 15-year entrepreneur. I would be a listed company today. But so I think when you have that sense that you have become a guru at what you do, and the market accepts you, and you have that gravitas, which happens at 35, between 35 and 40. That's the right time to plunge for what we do.
Yeah.
I think.
And I think the difficult part, Kushal, for most people is actually by that time. Now, coming back to your point on the big four, you have golden handcuffs. तुम्हारे को solid salary मिलती है, तुम्हारी solid life होती है, तुम्हारे solid placards होते हैं. You of course work hard, but तुम्हारा risk बहुत कम होता है. So what is your actual motivation to get out and do it? 90% of all entrepreneurship in consulting dies there actually. Because you do not have...
I would say 99.
99%.
They would know,
I know.
Our entry barriers are too high.
Yeah, exactly.
There will not be another transaction.
Exactly. And I think that's really and that is what we tell everybody actually who joins us, that, how do you, when is it that you effectively have a real desire to kind of leave? What is your trigger? And that's where, like I said, most people kind of fail. I think I agree from Girish's perspective. I think in services, services is not where you suddenly wake up one day and says, I'll be an entrepreneur. It doesn't work like that. I think technology is very different, as we know. I've seen some amazing entrepreneurs coming at different stages. Even chartered accountants wanting to build technology, actually. I've seen some amazing entrepreneurs who've been working on, technology around risk, technology around reporting, bookkeeping, So I think effectively, if you are a chartered accountant who wants to do that, technology-based startups, entrepreneurship, I think the sooner you start, the better it is. You learn anything. If you're a services-based kind of an entrepreneur, effectively you got to find your path. Whether it is the 35 to 40 or the 45 to 50 is up to you in terms of how you do it. Actually.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What was your age when you took up lunch?
Unicus was when I was 47.
Okay. And yours was 45.
45, yeah.
So some similar.
Yeah, similar this thing. But I'll tell you, there is no age on entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And this time I will not name. I actually often name a lot of people, but there's somebody who I went to, another person who I kind of consult a lot, super senior guy. And I told him I had 3 choices when I became an entrepreneur. So 3 different choices. One was to head as a very large technology company. The second was private equity. And the third was to do something of my own. And I remember I'm 47. So I go and meet this guy and great conversation. And I said, one of the things I told him, I said, if I don't do it now, I'm not sure whether I will do it 5 years later when I would be 52. This person did his last venture, which is worth $4 billion when he was 60. He started when he was 60. So he looked at it and says, really? So I think the learning here, frankly, for me is that entrepreneurship can come at different points in time. But as Girish rightly said, services is one slot. Technology, actually, the sky is the limit, actually, when you start, how early you start.
Yeah. Super interesting. Last question, which is a tricky one I asked to all my guests. If you were in the shoes of Kushal and if you were interviewing Jamil sir and Girish sir, what is one question you would like to ask them towards the end of the interview?
Yeah, maybe just on entrepreneurship. Actually, I think the one question, it would be, what was I fearful of when I became an entrepreneur, actually? Or did I fear anything at all? And therefore, how did I kind of see that? Because see, in my case, it was not about golden handcuffs. It was about, I had achieved what I had to achieve. I didn't need money. All that stuff was sorted. But there was always this thing about, honestly, by doing this plunge, okay, what is the risk I'm taking from my reputation perspective? I've been like always on top of my game, 47. What if I fail?
Yeah.
What will it mean for my legacy? And does it matter? And I think that is really what, honestly, was a good debate, actually. And we went through this. So, for example, my wife, Mridula, and I, she's also a career KPMG person who left after 27 years. And I think, there was this big debate in the family that if you do a startup, does your value go up or does your value go down? It's a fascinating thing. Do you go up? And the conversation of the family would be like, oh my God, like you were the leadership of KPMG, global head of KPMG, and now suddenly you will start one small company. And there were people in the family who believed that is great because finally you're not working for somebody else, but you're working for yourself, right? But on the other hand, there was this whole feel that what if you fail and say, oh, this guy was very good till he was in a platform. Or this person is very good till they were in a platform. But this person is what he was because of the platform, not because of himself. That risk point was a very interesting kind of a dilemma that I went through. And I finally kind of got to the stage that, look, frankly, I felt confident enough. I had the sponsorship and the support from people who mattered. And that's how I took the plunge, actually.
Yeah. Lovely.
I would say no, besides this, what else would I do? I would think that, this is my karma. I would do this forever. I would never go back to anything else. And today I'm 52. I have 48 years of my life to grow this. I've only done 7 years. Path ahead is long. There's no retirement for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes, we are very grateful that
indeed
for whatever KPMG did for us. I thank it every day. Because we are where we are because of the platform we got. Anderson KPMG.
Yeah.
I actually thank people who made me what I am, actually. I'm a huge believer and that, increasingly platforms don't matter. What people do to each other matters. And this goes back, Girish, to the point you were making. There are big companies which are great platform because they have great people who do great things for people. And I think the fact that you should were fortunate enough in life that we had different people intervening and helping us.
We came across wonderful
people along the way. So.
Very awesome. Thank you so much once again for doing this. Had an amazing time. अगर आपको ये वीडियो पसंद आया होगा तो आई रिक्वेस्ट यू टू शेयर इट विद ऑल योर फ्रेंड्स एंड सब्सक्राइब टू आवर चैनल सो दैट वी कैन गिव यू मोर वैल्यू एडिटिव कंटेंट इन द शॉर्टेस्ट अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम. हमको ये बताइए कि आपको कौन से काइंड ऑफ गेस्ट चाहिए, हमको ये बताइए कि कौन से क्वेश्चंस मुझे नहीं पूछने चाहिए थे, कौन से क्वेश्चंस मुझे और पूछने चाहिए थे ताकि आपको और ज्यादा वैल्यू मिल सके, और कौन से ऐसे पार्ट्स है जो आपको बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं आए ताकि हम लोग ये पार्ट स्ट्रीम कर सकते फ्यूचर एपिसोड्स में. सो थैंक यू सो मच वंस अगेन फॉर वॉचिंग दिस एपिसोड एंड कीप शेयरिंग ऑल आवर एपिसोड्स विद योर फ्रेंड्स एंड कीप गिविंग अस फीडबैक so that we can improve and come up with better quality content.